What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Christian Labosco podcast. Today I've got Euan Spencer on. Euan Spencer has grown to 2,400 followers on Twitter. He is a fantastic writer and has founded the best community to help creators grow a personal brand on Twitter. I'm super honored to have him as a guest on the podcast. How are you today, Euan?
Doing amazing, man. Thank you for that intro. Yeah.
Of
Uh,
course.
Thanks for that compliment for XR, best community
Of course.
on X. Definitely
Yeah.
is.
Um, for those who don't know your story, could you give a little background on how you got into the creator economy and your story before that?
Yeah, definitely. How far do you want me to go in terms of
As far as you want.
as far as I want? I mean, I think the original source of what I'm doing now was when I was younger. I really liked video games, but not just in the sense of playing video games. It was in the sense of mastering them. I loved not even just the aspect of playing, it's really the aspect of becoming so good at something that it becomes second nature to you.
Yeah,
And that feeling right there is something that I just love. And it's been shown in every aspect of my life, I think. So it started with video games mostly. I have, for example, I have one game with 7,900 hours on it, something like that, which is like equivalent of 8 months straight.
that's
Uh,
insane.
yeah, so I love that. And then that's mostly what I did for most of my time. All my time, I didn't just play. I was actually like kind of like now I had my routine. I had the training routine.
Same.
I was yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, it's literally like every aspect of my life was dedicated to that and mastering that.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember in COVID year, I had got this game called Rocket League on the Xbox, and I wouldn't even really play the game. I would just do 2 hours of like training routines to learn the mechanics of the game, like every day, rather than even
Yeah.
really having
Yeah.
fun. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool because this is kind of a side point, but it's cool. I feel like every person that's went through phases like that has a huge advantage in the creator economy or in business because it's technically exactly the same thing. This is
Yeah.
like still a video game. You have your training routine and you set it up the same way as you would set up a video game.
Mhm.
So it's really cool. Um, but yeah, then I went to high school and I fell addicted to weed for a while. Um, I didn't play video games that seriously at that point. I was mostly just partying, smoking, but like a lot. I
Mhm.
would probably smoke like 15 to 20 joints a day. I was going to class drunk, falling in the hallways. It was a kind of weird time. But at the same time, even though I was doing all that, I was still very much into spirituality. I would still meditate every day and I would actually try using weed as a way to go deeper into meditation, even though at the time now I wouldn't do that. But I tried using it more as a way to achieve deeper
Like a
states of consciousness,
psychedelic.
I could say. Yeah, kind of. I tried psychedelics a lot as well. Um, but that have a different one. But yeah, the weed was that lasted for like 4 years, where I was basically looking a lot into consciousness and into purpose and into stuff like that. But at the same time, I was just highly addicted to weed.
Hmm.
Um, which didn't help me that much.
Yeah.
But after a while, the more I looked into consciousness and purpose and just everything along those lines, I really started falling in love with that. And I was basically, it's kind of like, I don't know if you could relate to this, but having that feeling of, you have potential to do more, but you don't actually know how to actualize that feeling. Um,
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah. And I had that deep feeling there. And then I was like, okay, well, I mean, fuck yeah, I'm just gonna stop everything and just find a way to actually make my life better. And that's when at the time, I was a chef and I hated what I did, even though it was fun, but at the same time, I was working like 75 hours a week and getting paid minimum wage. Uh, and getting yelled at by a head chef all day, which was just horrible. So I looked for a different way to make money because I mean, money is important. I found is it called digital art basically. I wanted to become a digital artist, and that's when I found social media because I started posting on there and I found, oh, maybe I can get clients through this. And then I just fell completely in love with social media and creating content, and that's where everything kind of stemmed from, is that first time I posted on social media
That's
digital
awesome.
art. Yeah, so that's basically the big picture story of everything that happens. um
Yeah, that's awesome. It's just I have a question. if you could go back, would you get rid of those years of like partying and
No,
weed? Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah,
not at all.
it
I learned
shaped
so
who you
much during
are.
that
Yeah,
time, but yeah, exactly. And even the hardest times and the most awful, where I literally sometimes probably wanted to kill myself. Um, Even those times, the darkest times are what give the contrast to the times that are
the
now.
best
If I
times.
didn't
Yeah,
have those, then I wouldn't be the way I am now. Yeah,
yeah,
they were non-negotiable in a sense.
yeah. I've heard sort of this quote that you shouldn't be mad at your past self because your past self is what brought you to who you are now. So,
Yeah,
and of course, you're
I love
probably
that.
always going to look on your past self and think you could have done better, but your past self is the person that allowed you to become who you are today. So, moving on. So, why did you start writing on X? How did you transition from digital art to writing on X?
Um, I mean, I tried multiple different things before that. Before X, I tried multiple, well, especially personal brands. I tried like two on YouTube, two on Instagram, a few on TikTok. Every time I just quit. Um, so in terms of what brought me to X, it was kind of random in a sense. It was more like I've been testing so many stuff. I'm just gonna stick with one thing for 2 years before even quitting, and I don't really care about the results as long as I just do it. Um,
Yeah, that's
and because
powerful.
I was just bored. I was mad at myself for just quitting stuff over and over. So I was like, I don't care if I'm consistent, that's a win. Um,
Yep.
so so there's no specific reason. I kind of just stumbled onto it, you could say. I was a video editor at the time though, so I was looking for clients, and it seemed like a nice place to be able to find clients due to the networking aspect. That's what brought me here. Yeah,
It's crazy. Money Twitter's like a gateway to something else. Like you never know. Interesting you didn't come from Danco, but everybody that kind of gets into it, it seems eventually get into really develops the spiritual and the
yeah,
purpose if they're in it for long enough or find that side of money Twitter. So
yep.
interesting. So you tried digital art before Twitter. Was it like YouTube automation channels or was it a personal brand channel?
Nah, personal brand, but mostly that always lasted only like 3 weeks to a month. Every time I just quit. My longest was probably like 2 months on TikTok, I think. I'm not sure exactly, or Instagram. Then I tried a bunch of stuff like UGC ads. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made some money there, but it was just so unfulfilling because
Yeah.
yeah, it's so boring. But I learned some stuff for sales there. Then I did copywriting. I did video editing, which I also made some money there. Uh, Affiliates, like where you basically do kind of that automation, but automation that sends to affiliate links, and graphic design. So yeah,
Yeah. It's just
a lot of
incredible
stuff.
because all of that stuff built your skill set you have today. So for you to
Yeah,
see opportunities now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a huge lesson right there. So at the time, I was thinking I'm just quitting over and over. Like I'm so mad at myself. But now I realize that exactly as you said, each step gave you the perspective to be able to see the next one.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
awesome. It's an awesome lesson.
Yeah. It sort of reminds me of the Danco story that he'll tell. It's the whatever digital art, but you doing different thing. I don't think you did UGC ads. I've heard that from teaching men's fashion on YouTube. I think he talks about UGC ads, and I was like, oh, that's so easy. And I was like, do I want to promote a product that I don't even believe in? And I'm also 15, so I don't know if that's even allowed. But anyway, it still reminds me of Dan Coe's story that he went through all these things and then eventually went to Twitter to advertise his web design. Like you went to Twitter to advertise your video editing. So
Yep,
it's interesting. Parallel. So
definitely.
once you got onto X, was there anyone who especially inspired you once you kind of got into money Twitter?
Mm, Not necessarily. I mean, Dan Coe definitely helped me a lot. Yes, a lot of people say that name, but definitely he's like the first person I bought a course from. The first to actually really helped me get some initial results. Uh, Other than him, not too much. I think that's the main guy that really taught me X stuff and got me into writing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It feels like there's so many people that come from Danco that he can almost get this bad name that people will just repost his platitudes. But I've personally went from Danco, and if you really go deep into his stuff and his whole philosophy, it basically is he teaches you the philosophy so you can create your own, not so you really copy him. So
Yeah.
that's something I find powerful from him. Who are the people you look up to the most currently in the creator economy?
I wouldn't say look up to. For maybe it's my ego speaking, but I don't
I
like
agree.
looking up
Putting
to
in
people much.
pedestal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone is completely exactly the same person with the same possibilities and opportunities. Uh, But in terms of who do I
Emulate
enjoy,
or
yeah, who do I
emulate,
enjoy
yeah.
in terms of worldview, like whose perspective do I enjoy most? I would say right now, Alex Ramosi and Sam Ovens.
Mm.
I listen to these guys as much as I can. I love their, especially their perspective on doing their best work possible. Like they're always at that extreme of if it's not the best quality ever, then I don't do it. And I really like that aspect of
Yeah.
what you.
Creating a community on school, I think, had the same effect on Aiden LaBrush because now he's
Yeah.
in that whole rabbit hole as well. It's funny.
He is, yeah. We speak about Sam Ovens a lot when I'm on a call with him.
That's funny. It's great. I haven't really gone into Sam Ovens, but definitely Alex Ramosi is somebody that I've listened to a lot. He definitely I think he transitioned his YouTube to be more business focused. So I think it's probably even
Mhm.
more valuable than it was before.
Yep. Yeah, his latest ones are really good. Really
Yeah.
good videos.
What do you think is the biggest thing you have that sets you apart from other creators on X?
Definitely purpose-based branding. I mean, it's a system that I've came up with myself, that I've built myself. It's the first time I've done my own thing, um, and it's validated because I've tested it with my one-on-one clients and the community. So it's a system that works and it's unique to me. So I think that's my biggest asset right now.
That's awesome. Would you say that your writing has become better because purpose-based branding, like the whole, all of that, maybe not the actual kind of structure and everything, but maybe the structure as well, because the way you break that down is really useful, but also like the ideas. I feel like that part of the note-taking method that you showed reminds me of
Hmm.
Dan Coe's, and I feel like that's what people will mess up is they'll copy him, but they don't know the 7 hours of walking that went into him creating that idea and like breaking it all down, like you said.
Yeah.
It's just there's so much depth behind that rather than him writing like a one-liner that gets 5,000 views. So yeah.
Yeah, but to answer that question, yes, it's helped my writing a lot, mainly because having one main frame basically to my writing, I get to see every idea and find the connection between that idea and this big idea of purpose-based branding. So I actually have to take my time to understand this thing that I just found to find that connection. So I really have to find it. Okay, how can I implement it into this? How can I frame it under my own angle of purpose-based branding? And that's helped a bunch, both for just consistency in my ideas and also my own understanding, etc.
Yeah.
So
It's
definitely yes.
super powerful. I feel like it also allows you to make your interests interesting because you're connecting it to a value that's sort of like a goal, like
Hmm.
honesty, hard work, anything like that. When you connect it to that, it's more powerful. It's like if you learn writing, then you also achieve this higher kind of moral goal and value. So that's interesting. I just thought of. So, what
Definitely.
would you say inspired you to start purpose-based branding?
Um, Inspired. It was kind of like, those aha moments where you really don't you're not looking for something, but something just sparks and you make that a huge breakthrough. That's
Yeah.
kind of how it happened. As I said, even when I was smoking weed, I was looking already into purpose and consciousness. I've always been fascinated about like kind of all the talk around reality and what this experience actually is. Um, and I just love those topics. And then even I had a good amount of coaching, of courses, of everything that I've taken around purpose around before creating content, and I never saw the connection basically between both. And then just one day I was on a walk and I was like, oh, wow, like I can actually connect values and purpose to branding. And then I just
Yeah.
ran home and started working on it. So
That's awesome.
there was no actual process to finding it or to inspire me to do it. It was really that just click of, oh, actually, these two random things connect.
Yeah. It was like you were searching for it your whole life and just one
Yeah,
moment
yeah,
you found it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Who would you say purpose-based branding is for, do you think? But kind of being more narrow with that question, do you think it's for people that try to niche down or people that are broader or for both?
For the niching part, it depends on what you mean by niche, because a
Mhm.
lot of people say niche for a topic, and I don't think a niche is a topic. A niche is a group of
Group of
people that
people.
you target.
Mhm.
Um, because then any topic can apply to them, and that's how you actually get that trust. But who's it for? I definitely don't think it's for everyone. That's for sure. Purpose-based branding, how I see it, at its fundamental level, um, is for people who actually want to make a big impact, like the impacts that actually change the world, like I don't know, Nikola Tesla level, or
Mhm.
Leonardo da Vinci level, or Elon Musk level. I think that's for who it is.
Yeah,
Even
that
though it can help
purpose.
a lot for people that are smaller as well, that want to really succeed in life, or who want to not necessarily have a huge impact, but just impact their own life. It can help them, yes, but who it can help most is people that actually want to both make a lot of money, but also really change the world in a radical way.
Yeah. For me, it sounds like it's not for people that treat it as a means to an end for better content. It's
Yeah,
a kind
yeah,
of a way of life. Like that
definitely.
questions because that's something you can do for your whole life is ask those questions whenever you get an idea, the ones you shared on Thursday. Like that's
Yeah.
what I loved about it is that kind of it just you become I don't know, I guess a creator in that
Mhm.
sense. There's no separation between what you're doing outside of writing on Twitter and when you're just like kind of walking around doing whatever you're doing.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it really is for those that want to basically go to the extreme in a sense of living this kind of life. Because it really, once you get into it and really apply purpose-based branding, it isn't just content. Yeah, it's basically giving application to every single conscious experience and really finding a
Hmm.
way to give everything meaning, basically.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I love that. I think something I've kind of been thinking about is that almost any experience you have, good or bad, it has use constructively and content wise because it's if it's constructive then it's content because if you're aware of it you can learn from it in some way and provide a lesson, so that's something I feel like the purpose-based branding kind of trains the awareness is the meta skill of the century thing that Dan Coe says. It's just building that awareness of your thoughts and what you're consuming
mm.
and having a lens. What kind of problems do you think purpose-based branding solves for people?
um, the main one I think is lack of meaning and discipline, or slash willpower, because to me the greatest cause of suffering in the world is a lack of purpose.
Yeah.
A lot of people, first of all, don't even know what purpose is. They think it's, I don't know, some magical thing that's going to make you love, well, yes, love everything, but make you happy all the time. Or it's
Yeah.
just this one thing that once you find it, you tick that box and it's just that. Um, but overall, what purpose is to, at its fundamental level is really just a big problem that you find deep meaning in solving. So that now this comes back to what we are saying. Every single life experience now has application, and you actually have something important to do. You have that frame for your experience, where most people don't have a frame for their experience, even if they have goals or whatsoever. They don't actually have that frame, that purpose, that meaning that gives them a reason to go and achieve that goal.
Yeah.
Um,
It seems that
and
having purpose stops from making everything a means to an end.
yes, exactly, exactly. Um, so I think that's the biggest thing is basically that it's really that willpower side of stuff, or that discipline side of stuff, and that fixing, solving, and fulfillment, basically. or lack of meaning.
Yeah. Something that this kind of reminds me of the purpose being sort of the sole focus that like kind of the reason behind life is having a purpose towards something higher, like the highest
Mhm.
purpose in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it's impact and that's a purpose. It reminds me of this idea that like you don't really get happiness by pursuing happiness. Happiness is more of a byproduct of pursuing meaning and purpose. And I think Alex
Definitely.
Hormozy said, when you pursue happiness or something, you're saying that you're not happy right now, which automatically is this endless game of trying to chase happiness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The moment you make happiness a goal, it sits outside of yourself. I think that's exactly what Alex Hormozy said.
Yeah. How would you say the purpose based, do you think purpose based branding aligns more with this idea of niche of one that that is kind of thrown around? Because I definitely agree with the idea that niche should be a group of people. Because if you just speak to your past self, like everyone, so as many people in the space will tell you, dude, that's a large group of people that have had your same problems that you've been able to solve, or even like
Mhm.
problems you solve today, or relating to other people's struggles. Like, that's a whole group of people. So would you say it's for that niche of one?
Um, yes, and I don't think that's just purpose-based branding. I think business as a whole, if you actually want to succeed, you have to have that niche of one, just because all business is problem solving. And if you have too many problems to solve for different people, it's just going to be a hassle and a struggle. Um, so
Yeah.
really having that one singular thing that this is what I'm doing, I think it's basically that concept of essentialism. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's the most important part in all of this.
Yeah, something powerful for that idea of solving a problem is that throughout your journey as a niche of one, you'll be solving different problems. And when you solve that problem, you can provide a product. So anytime you sort of mention that your content's like, if you
Mhm.
have this problem, you can just go to this. And it's sort of also indicating to yourself that you have better problems to solve now because you've solved these problems and created a product out of them. So you can kind of evolve. Like that's what Dan Go did originally.
Mhm.
It was 2 Hour Writer, and now it's Cortex University in a book, like giving people a direction with his book. That's a much
Yeah.
higher level problem than how do you write a newsletter? Yeah.
That doesn't it's the really cool aspect thing of all this. If you do it right, you're basically just solving your own problems and then setting the solutions. Like the purpose-based branding system, I just built that for myself.
Hmm.
And it worked for me. I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. Why not actually make it public? Now I'm building my next thing, which is also helping myself and building systems for myself, but it's going to be helping others later on.
Yeah. Have you thought of sort of becoming the guy in the area of purpose-based, because purpose-based systems, purpose-based content, purpose-based branding,
Yeah.
purpose-based threads, like a whole thing?
Yes, definitely. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Not just purpose. Right now, I'm very focused on content. One day, I might even zoom out and actually just go fully purpose. Um, but yes, right now, for example, I'm writing on I'm focused on my purpose-based writing right now, and then this purpose-based profit for monetization.
Yeah. It's so powerful when
Uh,
you raise the, like you go up the ladder of questions, each one becomes its own product. This is how you write, and this is how I'm monetizing, and this just keeps going.
yeah,
Like maybe
yeah,
eventually write a book, purpose-based book. How to write a book based with your purpose. Some That's really powerful.
definitely. Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest mistake people make with personal branding?
Hmm. Good question. In terms of growth or their branding itself.
I'd say branding itself, but we can also talk about growth as well.
In terms of the branding, I think I'm gonna touch on the two things. One, they don't pick something they love, which is such a known thing, yet so many make the mistake of basically outsourcing their decision making. So they look at what others are doing to define what they want to do,
Hmm.
um, and they go so much in that direction that they forget that
What
they
they want.
outsourced it. Yeah, exactly. They forget and they think that that decision was their own when it was actually outsourced by other people. Well, outsourced by them to other people.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. It takes as much effort to monetize something you love than it does to monetize anything else.
Mm.
Even if someone was really passionate about video games, you can monetize that the same way as you monetize anything else. You can become a coach in there, you can create products in there, you can create a community in there,
Yeah.
and people have done it. It's so I think that's the number one thing. People basically outsource that decision of this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then second, in terms of results, um, self-honesty is what I would say. People, and was my biggest issue, is everything is basically an input output equation. So if you're not getting the output you want and the results you want, you're simply not putting the inputs that you need to put in. And 99% of the time, you know that you're not doing what you should do. You like everybody knows what they have to do, they're just not doing it, and then they
Yeah.
lie to themselves saying that they are doing it or that they're just not getting results because of blah 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 and putting the blame on something. So that's the second one. I think self honesty. The moment I was honest with myself with the quality and the quantity of the work I was doing, that's the moment I started getting results, because it's really as simple as doing the tasks. That's
Yeah.
literally it.
Accountability
Yeah.
for what's happening. You don't not trying to fool yourself into thinking what's
Yeah.
like projection of your insecurity of what's happening, really taking away that projection, seeing what is actually happening in the space so you can actually
Yeah.
improve. Yeah.
Definitely.
Two things there. With the video games, I think like people who are passionate about video games, like for me, I wanted to be a professional Rocket League player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can almost zoom out and see what is it about the video game that I like. Because for me, it was the mastery of skills in Rocket League, and that was something I could apply elsewhere that probably would give me a better lifestyle. Because I mean, sitting in front of a computer screen for 10 hours a day grinding video games probably isn't too sustainable. But I think that's something is like for you, it was also that mastery. I know when I had the conversation with Jack Moses, for him, he would build characters in NBA 2K, and that was that building aspect of things, and he loved that aspect. So it's almost like video games kind of the video game you're drawn to kind of shows you what you're interested in is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what would you say is more important, your writing or your branding?
I think they're both intertwined,
Mhm.
which is I know it's not a
Purpose-based branding.
straightforward answer, but
Yeah.
um I think a mistake a lot of people make is thinking branding is just a profile picture, a banner, and a bio,
Yeah.
where an actual brand is the narrative from which you speak. So the narrative from which you write, from which you go on podcasts on it's that frame basically.
Yeah.
Um, so your writing is your brand, and your brand is your writing technically, because it's that voice, it's the narrative. So it's the tone, the values you put forth, the lessons you put forward, the things you teach. That's your brand as a whole, but it's also the writing. Uh, I think that aspect there is more important than anything else. So it's even more important than formatting in your writing or in that actual skill of writing. It's really having that clear narrative that you want to put forward. Um,
Yeah.
so maybe it's branding then.
Yeah. It seems that branding is the first step. If you're not clear on sort of, like you say, purpose-based branding allows you to basically write. You're seeing it
Mhm.
through the lens of that purpose-based brand. So it's like a step, but it would seem that the mistake is focusing on one or the other. Like they kind of come one after the other. But it doesn't
Mhm.
seem like you can write without having a clear brand first, because then there's no direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could write, but it would be just a mess of ideas on a page.
Mhm.
Um, and you wouldn't be compounding your growth. You would just be randomly attracting different people every day.
Mhm. Yep. Definitely think that's something about purpose-based branding is that it creates this almost cycle of rewarding yourself with that purpose, and it just consistency in the long run because it's a lifestyle, not like I need to create better content, so I'm going to take purpose-based branding. It's this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to implement this into my life, and then you're just going to outlast all the people that are doing content as a means to an end or kind of this mission as a means to an end for money. So that's something I noticed with you guys with X Order is you guys could charge way more for that, but it's it's providing so much value and that the purpose behind it and creating so much value for the people in it. Like your guys are going to grow eventually. Like and definitely even if you raise the price because I mean it's right now it's like a steal for the price. It's insane the value in there.
Yeah, that was the idea behind it.
Yeah. Irresistible offer. Um, I've looked through the outline of your course, and there's six
Mhm.
parts I've seen to your purpose-based branding. Could you kind of elaborate on those six parts as much as you feel comfortable with?
In what way? Because I'm not quite sure if I don't think I had any specific reason for having six parts. It's mostly self-reflection,
Hmm.
seeing what I did for my own thing, building my own system out and helping myself, and then just reflecting back and thinking, okay, what steps did I just take to get this result? And it ended up being six parts.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So maybe the order kind of demonstrates something. The
yeah,
values is the first part, which
it
definitely has a meaning
does.
behind it.
Yes, that on that side of stuff, I think the each part that follows the part before needs that part. Basically, it's like to find your ideal reader avatar, I think you need your values because if you don't, you'll basically pick a random person that doesn't actually mean anything to you to help. Um, so every part is the foundation of the next part. It's like yeah, values are the first foundation for everything, and then your ideal reader avatar is the general problem you're trying to fix, and general direction in which you're going, and then going deeper into your actual mission that itself, you need your ideal reader avatar to have that general direction for the problem that you want to fix.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say, but I think I was basically saying that, oh, when you create your values and you identify your niche of one, it's kind of creating that school of thought that Talon talked about in that masterclass,
Mm.
where because your school of thought is basically just your values that you want for life in a way.
Yeah.
Like this is the ideal way of life for me. And they're usually kind of similar among people if you peel
Mhm.
back another layer, what's above that. And everyone sort of has a different path towards that. And that's the niche. Like for me, six, like freedom is building a brand. For someone else, that might be doing e-commerce, like whatever it is, kind of creates your niche. So I definitely think that's powerful. And then part six, the name's very interesting to me, brand and life integration. What does that mean for you?
Um, that's more basically finding the steps to actually apply it and integrate it into your life because the mistake I made myself when I first found my values and stuff, which was even before creating content, when I was just looking into purpose, was that I take that box off. I just did it for a means to an end. So I once it was done and I found those values and I found that purpose in a sense that I want to accomplish, um, then I just left it there and I kind of forgot about it because the box was ticked, so it wasn't important anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest mistake I made. Now, what I really want to get through with this course is that, again, yeah, it has to become a part of your life. You have to really ingrain those stuff into your mind because you've built so many habits without those values or without really clearly defining what you want or what you want to do that it takes a lot of time to really rewire yourself to be optimal towards your dream life or your dream way of living.
Yeah.
So yeah, that final part is really about basically doing what I have here, where I have my own value statements around them, and I'm always really focused on applying these as much as I can into my life. So I'm
Yeah.
always reading, looking at them multiple times a day, visualizing them, really making sure that I'm staying true to those.
Yeah. That's awesome because it almost sort of shifts your lens that you have on your glasses because those values are your lens. So
Yeah,
then
yeah,
that's sort of how you're able to create content is everything that happens in your life is seen through that lens of being a creator with those values. So you're able to create
hmm
content from almost anything. that you see because you can relate it. And this is something that I definitely found super powerful about being in the niche of one is that you just have so much more content ideas in a way because you're able to relate things to yourself, to your other interests, and so much more. Because you're not like just a copywriter, you're a whole person that has a whole experience that's outside of that small space. So that's something I definitely found very powerful. And then what part of purpose-based branding would you say has impacted you the most? And maybe it's the whole thing, but if there is a specific part.
I would say it's finding the big mission in a sense that I want to do, the big main goal. Um, because when you have such a big goal, all your bad habits get negated because you can't. If you want to do the bad habits, you have to sacrifice that big goal. And if you've done it right, that big goal has so much meaning to you that you'd give anything up to accomplish it.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
yeah, that's I think that would be the main thing. Is just it's finding that big thing because the moment I did, everything became much easier. Because I know that yeah, it's putting in the effort becomes worth it basically, or going through the pain becomes
There's a
worth it, or
purpose.
going yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hence the name.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely that. I think the only issue I'm currently struggling with as well with this is that a lot of people, I think their main focus should be more like monetizing or actually getting somewhere there. So I'm trying to tweak the purpose-based branding course because I fear that if I put forward this aspect too much, even though it's so important, that people focus too much on this side and then don't focus on actually getting their results up.
Yeah. I think something that might be powerful there is sort of making it clear that there are sort of layers of purpose.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can't really be impacting on the world if your base needs of security and things like that aren't met. So
exactly.
it's almost like you can have that North Star, but also be aware that there's some things you need to take care of now in order to be able to fully focus on that. But I think having the lens of the higher purpose, even when you're filling out the
Mm,
lower levels of the pyramid, is super powerful. And
definitely.
then two things. It sounds like having that big thing is that like reference point to view life. So I think I keep remembering this thing from Danko as like a bodybuilder when he gets asked to go out to dinner or something. That's threatening to his identity because he's not gonna be able to eat as well. But if you don't have the lens
Mm,
of that purpose of like building muscle or whatever it is, then it's not threatening. So those bad habits become threatening to your purpose or I guess identity in a way. Yeah.
definitely.
And
Yeah,
then
I mean that's the aspect I truly love of all this because it's not just words on a paper of saying I want to achieve this. It really is the complete way you see reality. It kind of like shifts. This sounds woo woo, but it shifts your reality entirely because you really every single thing takes a different meaning. Every single thing gives you a different emotion when you see it. It's
yeah.
really like a complete reframe of life in a radical way that you couldn't even imagine was possible before.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
really cool.
What would you say if you're open to sharing is that big thing for you? Sort of the top of the pyramid, big
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah, I am. Every time I say it to someone, they think I'm completely crazy. But it's basically I have it right here to collectively help every human on Earth find and monetize their purpose. Um,
It reminds me of a
which I know,
quote from Naval is there's 7 billion people and someday I hope there'll be
yeah,
7 billion businesses.
yeah. Um,
Yeah,
which is
but
an
it's
interesting one
just
because
so
go
powerful.
ahead.
That's so
Yeah.
powerful to name that though. It just
Oh,
must light you
definitely.
up.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, it brings back to when by having something like this that I want to achieve, I can't go out and drink every night. I can't go and smoke a joint. I can't slack off for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I take breaks, yes.
Yeah.
But I can't because if I do, then I sacrifice that big goal that I know would actually um, that I would find meaning in fixing. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, that is the big thing, and pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. It for me, I feel like one sentence for me would be for me kind of relaying that is everyone on the planet has purpose-based profit is kind of
Oh,
my
yeah, yeah.
that that's so powerful. And I think one thing is it probably like it's normal to do those degenerate activities, have a slack, but I think
Oh,
this
definitely,
purpose
definitely.
allows you to sort of get out of that
Mhm.
rut. Because even so, because there's probably things you can talk about that are helpful to people, even when you're in those ruts, because
Definitely.
living full experience. But because even if you're going through that rut, you have that lens. Like recently, I watched an old TV show, but I wasn't really mindlessly consuming it. I was had
Mhm.
that lens, and I wrote a whole long form on it that was incredibly long of like what I learned from this like kids TV show that I watched that I used to watch. So it's just
That's
very
awesome.
powerful because and I felt like sluggish afterwards, but you kind of remember what you want in that vision and you kind of just snap out of it. Like your mind
Mhm.
remembers what it is. Maybe not super like instant and just like, oh, I wanted this and you're out of it, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's like building in your mind to break through. Yeah. We
I
kind
mean,
of
I
covered
don't have
this.
anything.
No, go.
Yeah,
Because I was moving
I don't
on.
have anything against bad habits in a sense. It's like
Mhm.
how I kind of live my life lately. It's I like to work in seasons, so it's like I'm gonna go to one extreme for 30 days and then to one extreme for 2 days. So for 30 days, it's like I don't know 10-hour work days. I'm actually in monk mode, and it's really no TV shows at all, nothing but work or working out or going on a walk with nothing else. Um, and then for 2 days, I'm gonna I don't know go out have a drink with some friends or something. And even though, yes, I feel sluggish a bit afterwards, I'm going to enjoy that way more when I know that I've, in a sense, deserved it
Earned it.
because
Yeah.
I've spent, yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that works so much better than having balance on a micro level,
Hmm.
where it's balanced in your day. Because, I mean, having 1 hour to watch a TV shows a day is kind of like I would say it's even more annoying than anything else because you only have 1 hour. It's going to pass by fast, and you're going to be like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
don't want to stop watching." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have 2 whole days to do it,
That's
after
just what I
30
did.
days of really extreme, yeah, exactly,
Just like
then it's
binge
fun
for
because they,
15 hours and just
yeah,
got it all over
yeah.
with. Yeah.
Plus, when you do that, you actually, by the end of the 2 days, you're like, "Ah, I actually kind of want to get back to work now." So
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice to live that way. In seasons, it seems pretty much better, pretty better.
Yeah. I definitely felt that with the TV shows. Like, I could watch this an hour every day for like the next month and finish this. And then it's just constantly a distraction when I'm working, like thinking
Yeah,
about like the
exactly.
end of the day.
Yep.
And then I was just like, I'm just gonna finish it this weekend and probably take a day after to kind of process what just happened because I watched like 58 episodes of a show and I'm back into it in the next day. So definitely think that's powerful.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's also something to you probably get so much you probably learn so much even from those degenerate experiences as well. Almost as much, maybe in a different area, but almost as much as those 30 days of work because it's so intense.
Hmm.
Those 2 days of kind of, it's like, well, I don't really love doing it, but there was some things I like learned from that experience that was kind of valuable because there's having that lens of experiencing many things in life, I think is very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we kind of covered this, but what are your thoughts on niching down like being a copywriter, ghostwriter, that sort of thing. People that are like I'm a stoic ghostwriter, things like that, or being broad or niche list, niche of one.
Mm, I mean, yeah, I think again, most people get it wrong, where they think they should niche down on a skill or a topic when it's more niche down on, okay, who am I helping and what am I helping them with? So what problem am I solving? As long as you have that niche of the person and the problem, so the transformation you're bringing someone, then I think that's the only thing you need to define. Because once you have that, then the path to getting there becomes clear. You know what skills you need to develop to be able to help that person gain that transformation. You know what products you need to build. You know what delivery system you need. You know what type of content you need to create because you need to create stuff around that problem. So I think that's the main thing. If any, it's not even for just content creators. Any single person that wants to make money for business, all it takes is really defining that, and then everything becomes just as clear as glass. You know what you need to do to be able to fix that problem for that person. And my issue with a lot of people, and this comes from Nanco, a lot of people say I am the niche, but because of that, they don't actually take the time to define the problem that they're solving, because
Or
they
yeah.
just say, "Oh, I'm the niche, so I can just speak about my experience, and I'm the niche anyway." So, yeah, but they did that. Yeah, I agree that you are the niche, but you should still define that problem, define that person,
Yeah.
define that thing that you're actually doing to solve something.
Yeah. Two things there. I feel like that you are the niche is only really you're only really able to do that if you have the self-awareness of where you are. Because if you're just kind of saying what
Mm-hmm.
happened that day, and I think Danko talks about this, and you're not relating it to sort of your big goal, like your brand purpose, vision, like school of your definition of success, as Taylor Simmons called it, then it's just like it has no real meaning. Like saying I went for a walk today, but if you're like I went for a walk today, and I had this thought, and it reminded me of this, and this relates to how I'm going to improve my writing, and this is how you can do it as well. Like there's so much you can do, and I think the thing is like when you have that definition of success or like purpose that you have, like you said, like the ladders of problems. So right now it might be solving this, and then it keeps evolving as you evolve in the problems you're solving. And I think that's the problem maybe with being copywriter or ghostwriter, like you're solving the same problem for as long as you have your brand, really. If you're just a ghostwriter, there's I mean there's higher problems to solve. Like Taylor and someone has a ghostwriting agency, and that's like you're solving problems for bigger people. Maybe I don't know if the problems change, but you're stuck there. And I felt that when I
Mm-hmm.
did YouTube Shorts channel on of Star Wars. Like I love Star Wars, but after consuming Star Wars for 30 days and trying to create like edits and content, I had sort of drained that because it wasn't what I was interested in anymore. And I couldn't really relate other things like you can when you're a niche of one, as it's
Mm-hmm.
called, because you can relate different experiences and you don't have to be so narrow. It's like I think this is what Danko says. You want a broad brand and a specific product. So you're solving, like he has his lifestyle, and sort of the solution to being able to get his lifestyle is you have to learn how to write, 2-hour writer. Like he educates his audience into learning that writing is the key to that life.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. I think it works in three levels. Yeah, it's how I go about it. It's once you have that problem, that you define the problem and the person you're basically targeting and helping that to solve that problem. The social media is just capturing that person's attention, but you have to capture them where they're at. Most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, they don't even know they're facing that problem yet.
Exactly.
So you have to figure out, okay, what emotion are they feeling, calling out that thing so they get to capture the attention. Then that's super, super high level. Then you have your lead magnet and newsletter, which is more a solution to the problem, but not fully. It's more just kind of introducing them to
Like bring them
the
through
solution.
levels of awareness to
Yeah,
yeah,
basically, yeah.
yeah,
And then your product is the whole transformation. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, overall, I think so technically, it's both for that initial question of should I go broad or niche. You go niche with the person you're targeting and the problem you're fixing,
For
but
the
you go
product, yeah.
broad on social media to be able to catch that person's attention. Um, so it's both sides. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like being a niche of one and being broad is almost a no-brainer because like if Danco went niche with writing, he wouldn't have attracted 400,000 people, but because he went broad with the lifestyle and then is so good at educating in his newsletter, and his newsletters are basically sales pages where he educates them through the levels of awareness and is like, if they're ready and have been educated enough, then they'll go buy his product. And he
Yep.
just has such a broader funnel. And because he's so good at educating, you're able to get those people to realize that this is the solution if they are bought in on what Danco's selling, which is his lifestyle. And the other thing is that something he says is that every person in your audience knows 5 other people or something like that. So if you
Mm-hmm.
just have such a larger audience, it's like times three how many people you actually have. Because if you're providing value for those people, they're going to tell other people. And something else he said is like, if you niche down and you have 4,000 people that are super interested in copywriting, but then you're broad and you educate, you can have 4,000 people that are interested in copywriting within a 40,000 follower audience. And you're able also, and then you have those 36 other thousand people you can educate to become interested in copywriting. So I think this seems like a no-brainer to me from the
Oh,
research.
same here,
Yeah.
definitely.
Um, what would you say to anyone who's hesitant about growing their brand online, showing their face and creating a personal brand, or thinks it's just a fad?
I think the main reason people don't is a fear of failure. So the first thing I would say is to spend a lot of time trying to consciously get to the conclusion that failure doesn't actually exist. So basically reframing your whole perspective, because you really don't fail in anything. There's no um like good or bad is completely subjective. Every experience is created equal in a sense. It's all the same filter of consciousness of just being alive and being conscious of what's happening. So
Mhm.
where a lot of people say failure is just that they've attached an emotion to um, something that's happened that isn't actually supposed to be a negative experience. It's like even if you do start and 2 months in you think, oh, maybe this is actually too much for me. I don't really. I'm going to try something else. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. You've still learned a lot. You've still had that experience of going through the process of trying it out. Um, so I think that that's the main thing is basically removing that fear of failure and realizing that in any case it's experience.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of
So
reminds me.
that's
It reminds me of this quote from Alan Watts that I heard Danko or Jack Moses say is that man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. Is attaching that sort of
yes,
emotion
yes,
to life is kind of how it's supposed to be. And
yes,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I might bring up a point as well later on. If it's if it does come up because I've looked at the questions, but yeah, a point
yeah,
later on this kind of relates to this. Yeah, plus there are no downsides to building a personal brand. Even if you don't want to monetize it, which it would make no sense why you wouldn't, because you can monetize any interest through it.
yeah,
Even if you don't want to monetize it, you learn more about yourself, you create more discipline, you create better habits, you find a way to create a better lifestyle. You become more grounded, you become a better person. There's like it's it's not just a personal brand, it's a whole vessel to discover life through. Which that's really the aspect that passionates me most in a sense. It's really that aspect of being a creator isn't that just creating, it really is your entire lifestyle that changes.
yeah. Two things off that. I think if you provide enough value with your brand and you don't plan on monetizing, people are going to start asking you basically
Yeah.
monetize.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, how did you get
Where can I
this?
get more basically? Yeah.
Yeah. Or can I get some personalized feedback and
Yeah.
implementation? Yeah. And the second thing is for people that don't want to monetize, I think it's often two things like if you're not selling for yourself, you're selling for someone else in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that you probably don't fully believe in the product as much as you could because it's not personal to you. And the other thing is that when you monetize and build a business, it's like a gateway drug to self-improvement because in order to build your business, you have to level up as a person, and especially in a
Exactly.
one-person business. Usually the bottleneck is your skills, beliefs, and thoughts. So it's just like the fastest way to improve, I'd say, is if you build a business because you have to learn so much. You have to get rid of limiting beliefs that you're not an imposter and things like that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So yeah, overall, I think there are no downsides to it. I think it isn't for everyone, but everyone can learn a lot from it.
Yeah, I love that. Um, well, actually, kind of going off that, what would you say for the people that it's not for? What would you recommend them to do?
That's hard for me to say, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
I all I know is this in a sense because I've went so fully into this that that's all my life is right now, and I don't plan on changing that anytime soon. I think in any case, it comes back to that reframe of removing failure basically from your worldview and seeing just as experimenting, um,
yeah,
where all the values at.
yeah. Love that. Why do you think people? This just sort of goes back to the mistake, but Why do you think people will struggle to grow a personal brand? We can say on Twitter since that's mostly where we reside.
Hmm. Again, it comes back to self-honesty. There, literally everything is input outputs. There's not one single reason why you couldn't, or you. There's not one reason why you aren't getting results that isn't just because you aren't doing the right inputs. It really is that. Like, I would like to say something else, but at the same, there isn't anything else to say here. I think that's the main thing. Like for me, in my experience, um, I started online like a year and a half ago, about 2 years with all the UGC stuff. Um, and it took me like a year or so to monetize. If I just actually was honest with myself in the first 2 months, I would have done it in the first 2 months. Um, it really is completely input output. You can watch one single video of someone like Alex or one single newsletter. If you actually apply that, you'll get those results.
Yeah.
It's just most don't apply it and then lie to themselves about applying it.
Yeah. I definitely think it has to do with that ownership, and people definitely think there's like a victim mentality virus in the world today.
Yeah,
And it just
definitely.
doesn't make any sense from like a logical perspective. It's like you just give all your power away and you almost fool yourself into thinking by being a victim that gives you some kind of power. But when you take the responsibility, it gives you the power to change your life. I think you really only got into creator economy about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, Creator itself only about a year and a half.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
all the
incredible.
UGC stuff and stuff that was about 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I feel like is if you really take advantage of this creator economy, I mean, obviously you get more value than getting a degree, but it's just like exponential personal growth. Like the more you
Hmm.
put into it, like input, output, like I've been in the school system, I did college level program, but in the last 5 months, I have learned so much about myself and also lots of skills and built lots of confidence. Like if I was in that college program like 7 months ago, I would never have thought I'd be hosting a podcast. Like that was not something I would ever think about. So it just so powerful when you kind of give yourself permission to believe in yourself and you find a vehicle that allows like that belief to almost just transmute into outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You really see that exponential growth as well because you quickly become very different than everyone else around you. Like in just a few months, you become unrecognizable to who you are only like a few weeks or months. It's really
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It's so funny because I'll look back and I'm like, geez, I've been in the creator economy game for a while. It's like it's only been 5 months. It's like, wow.
Yeah, same happens to me, man.
Yeah. It's just it's I think a lot of it is sort of that like last night I had this idea for something and I just couldn't sleep. So I just wrote a whole Google Doc on the idea. And it's just that kind of excitement you get of just creating your own thing. Like I think that's part of why you light up so much, not only because personal branding such a purpose-based branding such a good idea, but because it's something you created. And there's just something so
Mhm.
powerful in that, especially when basically the school system didn't really allow you to create anything without any rules for your whole life. To be able to create your own thing with no rules and have people be impacted by that is might be like the most powerful feeling in the world to create
Yeah.
something that impacts people. Moving on
Def-
to, or sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Moving on to the community, which is just best community for creators to grow and learn how to grow a personal brand. What gave you the idea to start X Order?
Um, I mean, me, Aiden, and Savas. We were all already doing one-on-one coaching, so we had proven systems. We knew what we were doing, and we were all growing pretty well. Um, and we had been like in contact for a good 6 months or so, or 7 months, because we just had this Telegram group where we would once a week get all together, exchange value, which is a really cool tip for any beginners is to actually get just
Like
a group of
mastermind?
people. Yeah, yeah, create a small mastermind, and it's so useful.
Mm.
Remove some of the kind of loneliness aspect of all of it as well. But yeah, in that led us to just speaking a lot. We recognized that we have complementary skills. Like Savas is really good in the mindset side and
Yeah.
productivity side of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, me and Aiden were both pretty good at X and growth and writing and monetizing. So we were like, why not just try something out and see where that goes? Um, it's funny because we built the V1 of X Order so fast. It was like we got the idea, we were like, let's do it. In 3 weeks, it was like completely built. We already had 50 people in.
Yep.
It was going
Seize the
well.
opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And then since then we've just been basically growing that. To be honest, it came out of just kind of a random idea of, oh, this could be a pretty good opportunity, especially when we were kind of hesitant until Hermosi did the announcement that he was going to want to invest a lot into school and become kind of the face of it with alongside Sam.
All the synchronicities. It was the
Yes,
time to
exactly.
go.
We were like, yeah, this is a coincidence. Let's just do it. So yeah, it was probably the best idea, best decision we could have made. It's so fun.
Yeah, going back to that loneliness aspect, that's something I've definitely felt because I've sort of been always been interested in this, especially at a young age. And I think that's why I enjoy the podcast so much and being in communities. And I think that's also why I've stayed in Twitter because I've tried
Hmm.
YouTube, but Twitter is such a more community-based thing
Definitely.
than YouTube. And because YouTube doesn't allow you to message anybody, I don't
Hmm.
really like TikTok, so I don't, or Instagram.
Yeah.
So Twitter is definitely the place, and so cool to have conversation with people about things that I would never be able to talk about with other kids my age, and probably not even you. You probably even at your age, people can't have conversations with people
Oh
this
yeah,
locally.
yeah. Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I don't know. The only conversations I can have like this is with people like you or Savas or people I've met online, um, which is cool. And my mom. But
Yeah, me too. My mom and dad, the only conversation as well. Yeah. And the mastermind principle, I really found how powerful that was in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. And he's someone
hmm.
like the older authors is something I've become really interested in, is sort of studying the people that sort of founded these ideas back like 100 years ago, which even though that's probably not founded, but it started a movement in the modern day
Hmm.
because these ideas probably existed a long time ago. But the mastermind, like I've been doing, I don't have a large group. This was just me and Vigo. We just like meet once a week, and
Oh,
he's like
nice.
on he's on another level, so it's super useful. So we just actually had a call yesterday, and it's super powerful because get that just get feedback, and the more people you have, definitely. I don't know. There's definitely a cap. I've heard 7 is like optimum.
Hmm.
Above that, it's too much, but you get so many different perspectives. But I think it's important to sort of grow that mastermind small, like the quality, like not
Oh,
just trying to
definitely.
grow it to grow it, like keep that quality pretty, like you want quality over quantity, I'd say, for a mastermind. So we're not trying to rush growing our sort of little mastermind we have, but eventually that would be cool if we had 3 to 7 people
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it really is helpful because it's like you can, I don't know, you have a few hook ideas, you just send them in and you get feedback. It's you having just those extra set of eyes, um, it's immensely useful. I can't even quantify how much.
Yeah. Two of the questions I've found that I got from this Napoleon Hill workshop that Russell Brunson did recently, that for mastermind is your biggest wins for since you had the mastermind call and the biggest struggles you've had, because the wins you can kind of share your lessons and what you did well, and then the struggles you just get feedback on it and
Hmm.
a different perspective. Because I find often when you're in like you're the person that has the problem, it's so hard sometimes to see
Yeah,
outside, except
yeah,
you see all the other people's problems and you're like, oh, it's you just do this. But when it's
hmm,
you, it's so much more difficult. I think that's something the Solomon paradox or something where he was able to give really good advice to everybody, but his life was terrible or something like that. Yeah. Um, what was that process of growing X Order? Because you said it within 3 weeks or like a month or so, you had 50 members, which is like that's pretty impressive. So
mm. It was pretty hard to be honest because it was the first time we worked as a team. First of all, um, I had never worked with anyone else, and having to not being able to basically just make a decision on your own and just go with it and see what happens, having to actually go through other people and having to uh, even just manage a team. You can't have just your task list. You need the task list that's always changing between other people, and it's always yeah, it gets really hard. We're still even learning that. But the process was pretty simple. We just outlined, okay, what are we trying to help someone with, and outlined the courses, started building those, and just literally went all in. Um, in terms of getting people in, I mean, outreach, our DMs are really powerful. People just don't know how to do them correctly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you do
yeah,
cold, or was it people that had sort of engaged with your content before?
yeah. I don't do cold at all. I think that's where number one mistake people make. Like I don't see even logically or myself, or I don't see how anyone will ever reply to someone that says, "What if I can get you 100x more, blah blah blah," in the first message, and you don't even know who it is. I
Yeah.
don't see how that
And then
works.
they have like
Um,
110 followers, and they're like, "I'll grow your
yeah,
account."
exactly. Yeah. No, my strategy is basically an equal analogy for this, or metaphor is like I basically see it as my profile or my X account or my social media presence in general is like a supermarket. Um, like let's say in a supermarket, the people come in, they have a general idea of what they want. They're basically walking around and they're open to being to getting their eye caught by something as well, but they're just walking around with the intention of buying something. But they're never actually going to go and see the clerk for ask for help or something like that, because most of the time they don't. They just look for shit themselves. Uh, but if the clerk comes up to them and says, "Oh, do you need help?" Blah blah blah, then that's when the person's going to be, "Yeah, I need help with this, da da da," and then they're going to walk around and the clerk's going to help them. It's the same idea here. People most of the time are not going to come and ask for help, but 99% of the time they need help.
Mm,
So my strategy is basically I have my offer, I define what problems does this fix, then I create content specifically calling out that problem in the hook. So I know that every single person that engages with that like, comment, retweet, or anything is someone that is
qualified
has that,
themselves.
yeah, in a sense, yeah, is qualified because they that caught their attention, that problem. I mean, they related to that somehow. So they walked into my store basically. And
I love
then
that.
I actually go out, I reach, and I don't do it in a very salesy way. Most of the time, it's just like, "Hey, dude, thanks for the like, or thanks for the follow, or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what got you to resonate," and then we just have a conversation, and I have basically a flow to doing that. But yeah, I just do warm, and that's how I do it. I think there's the cool thing with social media is you have infinite leads because you just need to create one piece of content, and every piece of content is like throwing a net in the ocean. Like every single new piece, every short form, every long form is generating new leads. So anyone that says I don't have leads is lying. They're just not outreaching to the people that they're catching with their content.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's how my philosophy around that, and it's helped me so much because it's just basically creating content and outreaching to every single person that interacts with that, uh,
Yeah.
doing that
That's
over and over.
that's super powerful. It's something I want to sort of include in my, I guess, weekly levers is looking at the content for the week,
Hmm.
looking at, I don't know if I can see who followed, but I can see like repost is like kind of qualifies them the most out of anything. So
Definitely.
repost or like a really well thought comment and kind of, because I'm launching a lead magnet soon, so I'm probably going to create content sort of like why content, why you need to build whatever is in the whatever's in the product. You can't the
Hmm.
conscious consumption. So like why you need to have an information diet and whatever. And then anyone that sort of qualifies himself as like responds to that thread or whatever, I can reach out to. So I think that's definitely something I need to start doing. Something I've thought about, but what you outlined it there with the store makes a lot more sense. It makes me want to
Yeah.
do it more.
Yeah, no, it really works well. And it is such a straightforward process when you actually look at it like that. So yeah, pretty
um,
powerful.
how's your experience been with using the school platform?
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. I think there's some stuff that can still be improved, but in terms of potential, I think it's the platform that has the most right now. Just knowing that Alex is fully in on that idea,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like, yeah,
a good
it's
endorsement.
gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be crazy in a few years from now. And even the training inside that you get for free, like once you have free paying members, you basically get access to free training. You get access to Q&A calls with Alex every week. You get access to
You get to ask Alex Ramosi
yeah,
questions. That's
yeah.
insane.
And you also get how's it called? They basically every month the top 10 people in the leaderboard of school
Send go through. Yeah.
get sent to, yeah, and you get access to all the recordings of that one day. So you basically get all the advice that they
Yeah.
give. Um, so the training alone is crazy. It's like literally I would pay thousands for what I get in terms of the training there. Um, so I think it's the best platform to for communities. I love it. It's
Yeah.
really good.
It's super interesting. Something I noticed because I think Russell Brunson was sort of a mentor to Alex Ramosi in some way. And both something I noticed with both of
Yeah,
them is that they create incredible offers. Like they're just incredible at creating like
yeah,
I see Andrew Kirby's thread and it's like the breakdown of schools, like it's worth $10,000 for a $35 like
yeah,
trial or something. And it's just crazy. And I think something else that makes schools stand out is it's not just a platform, it's an education along with being able to use the platform. So you get those
yep,
trainings.
yep.
Have you asked Alex Ramosi a question yet in the
I have
Q&A?
not. I have not. I should because surprisingly he doesn't get many. Like the last Q&A, he only got like 30 questions or something. Um, I watched the recordings, but I have to see at what time they run and actually hop on the live. The thing is, I don't know what I would ask. I don't
Yeah.
have that many questions right now. Um,
Yeah.
but they're so good, so valuable. I love them.
Yeah. Definitely can he can sort of be intimidating and especially because I get the same kind of thing as like I just don't want to ask like I don't like there's no dumb questions. Yes, there is. It's like you ask him like, do you think school's a good platform? Like like come on, you have to ask you have to really think about it. So question asking is definitely such a powerful skill. Something that
Hmm.
the podcast is helping me with because especially when you ask someone like Alex Ramosi, like you don't want to not waste their time because he's probably fine, but still, like you don't want to waste your time. Build that bad kind of thing. You're back on the next call, and he doesn't really want to answer your question after you said something like, "Do you think school is a good platform?" So
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even think if I don't even know if I would have any questions right now. Everything is pretty clear in the process. But
that's good. Um, what would you suggest to creators who want to start their own community on school or some other platform?
mm, mm, I would say go high ticket. You're small. Even I'm not huge, and it's pretty hard to scale something 55. Uh,
Yeah.
well, then I have my high ticket stuff as well on the side. Uh, But
Yeah,
mm,
it's almost like the community. I mean, you guys are taking a unique approach because with your size, for if you were aiming for money, a cohort would have been the avenue to
mm,
take if money was the goal, and then kind of. But it's also this is like a caveat is that it's such an authority builder to have a community. Like
yeah,
people, it's
definitely.
like it's so much authority to build, and it probably helps you grow as well having that authority. So. It's difficult, but I think it depends on your short term versus long term goals. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would definitely say go high ticket, and then other than that, uh, a community is pretty easy to scale. Maybe a cool tip I would say is get people in for free first. Get an active community, so get people speaking, understand the principles of community of running a community, build a few courses out, start getting a few results with the free people inside. And once you're comfortable with running it, then you switch it to paid. The free members stay free,
Yeah.
but at least when someone pays, they join a community that's actually already active.
That's clever. Yeah. That seems to be something you guys did is
Yeah,
since you have a smaller audience, there's kind of that benefit of lower ticket because you not only do people pay, but they're also active and it's like a no-brainer deal to join because the price even now, but it was originally 33.
pretty free, pretty
Yeah.
free. Yeah.
Yeah, but I forget exactly. I don't know what there's some I was going somewhere with the community thing, but I might have um but anyway, what do you think makes your community stand out compared to other communities?
Um, I think we put a lot of attention towards it, and we're trying to be still pretty personalized without like we're not wanting to lose that personal aspect to it. Um, that alongside with the purpose-based branding side of stuff, I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah,
Um, and I think there from what we've seen and the market research I've done, I don't really see any other good X communities.
that's true.
Um,
Yeah. Or
Specifically, I see a lot of cohorts and a lot of stuff like that, but communities themselves, I don't see many.
yeah, I think yeah, I just had actually some thoughts there. Like I'm in the Jack Moses community or cohort and he has a community in there. But it's there the one problem because I think he eventually plans to launch a community. Like actually, well, the problem with the cohort and then it being a community is that you're not going to be as active because you're not everybody's not like going to the calls and things like that.
Mhm.
And for someone like a bigger account, like Dan Co launches a community, that's great. But I think there's something more powerful to launching at a smaller size because it's just so much more personal and that makes you stand out.
Yeah.
Like you go to a Dan Co cohort and it's great, but you can't really ask personalized questions because there's, I don't know, probably like 10,000 people that has signed up for his,
Mm.
I think, future at work cohort. So I think that's something very powerful for you guys is starting small at when you guys aren't super huge allows you to provide so much value. And I feel like you guys are just going to get referrals, like, because it's just almost
Yeah.
impossible with the amount of value you're providing.
Especially because school is launching that referral program
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
So
I plan
hopefully.
to write some sort of thread too on the thing. 3 months ago, I was whatever, lost something. Like even like after that first long for me broke down, my writing got so much better from one breakdown. So and now
Those are
I
cool.
now I use that those questions you asked me and I'll plug them
Mhm.
into ChatGPT or this other software I use. And I'll be like, did I cover this stuff? Just to
Nice.
kind of get an idea of it. Because AI is definitely, I don't think it's powerful for creating writing, but it's very powerful, I think, for checking. Because sometimes it'll miss stuff, but if it notices something, that there's a real problem. Because if it notices it,
Touching on AI, now that you mention it, that's another side of purpose-based branding that I'm really why I'm going so much in this direction. Because if we don't, if we aren't lying to ourselves, AI is going to become powerful enough to create. It's going to become powerful enough to do any single job that is possible.
specialized. Yeah,
Yeah, and even every single other job, AI
yeah,
is, I think, radically going to change the way that society works. Um, and it's going to open, I think, a lot of time up for humanity. And that the issue
for
there is,
create, yeah,
yeah,
for creativity.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But I think the issue is that a lot of people don't have the right mindsets to enter a world like that.
Mm,
So the reason I'm so into purpose-based branding and that I hope to really develop this in a very powerful way to get to actually mainstream is especially for that. It's because in I don't know 10 years or so, if we don't develop a system that uh, gets a lot of people to actually find meaning in life,
I love
then
that.
most of the
Yeah,
world is going to
kind of
end
like
up
Wally.
like, yeah, exactly, like Wally. And I think I mentioned that in the course as well. But yeah, that's the main reason I'm also going in this direction is because the world is changing in such a way that where we a world of complete quote unquote freedom is going to be possible. Um,
it
and if it's not,
breeds it breeds like the polarity between the people that are going to completely take advantage and the people that are just going to
yeah, yeah,
let their lives just I don't know what they would do. Be like Wally,
yeah,
the Wally
exactly.
people and the people that are taking advantage.
Yeah. So I think when you have a purpose, that's the really cool aspect of all of this. First of all, you can keep growing a brand even if AI is powerful enough to create because you aren't just a brand in words anymore. You're a movement, you're a mission, you're uh
Exactly.
giving hope to people instead of just being words, which I think what most people will even creators will be replaced by AI if they don't have something like this because they have no
Or
depth.
if they're so niche down. I feel like especially because I think Danko says
Oh yeah,
niche down
yeah.
is like a glorified search engine. And AI will
Yeah.
definitely be able to become a glorified search engine. It
I
already
mean like
is in some ways.
ghostwriters, and I don't have anything against it. You can make some really good money ghostwriting, and it's probably a very good business model if you know how to write right now. Um, but in a few years' time, AI will be better at you than you are at writing. Um, for like I don't know, someone could just put a few ideas in and it's going to create a month's worth of tweets for $20 a month.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see, but yeah, that's why I also think purpose-based branding is one of the big solutions here.
I think it's almost because you could even say like to the AI, put it through the lens of those values, but you
Mhm.
still can't implement your personal experience and what that feels like with the purpose-based branding. I think it seems like I think Luke Belmar, or I guess he's not Luke Belmar. I threw something thread that he exposed him or something, but um that the only thing that really can't be replaced by AI is community.
Mhm.
That's what can't be replaced. And it sounds to me like purpose and a higher purpose, because I guess AI has a higher purpose, but it's not really deciding that. Like, of course, AI doesn't have any needs. It's sacrificing not having to eat anything so it can produce tasks, but it's not deciding that. So
Yeah.
the purpose behind that, I think, is definitely very powerful.
Yeah, and
Um,
when you look at every big brand, they have a purpose behind it. It's like Elon Musk, his mission is to save humanity by going to Mars, by
yeah,
to escape the like pollution and stuff. Hamza, he has his cult like following because he actually has that mission of
educating
masculinity and
men.
the lack
Yeah,
of yeah, exactly. Dan is the same. He has that big mission of changing the educational system. Every single big creator has something like that behind them, and I think that's why they're so big, and also that's why they
Andrew Tate
actually grow
destroying
so
the
fast.
Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. They really have that, and it ties into the side of community right here, which is how you beat AI. When you have basically a tribe behind you of people that have a reason to follow you, and they actually feel part of something instead of just being a follower of a brand.
Yeah,
Um, that's where all the power is really at.
yeah. It reminds me of this thing I think Naval said, or maybe Danko. I get them confused now because they have a similar
Hmm.
thoughts and some of the especially the future. I would say they have similar ideas, but one of them said that with this freedom of like automation, there's going to start forming small tribes around the world of combined interests, and everyone will sort
Yeah,
of be contractors, not employees for anything, and they're kind of doing jobs for people. Yeah. I remember my question about the community was you said you would build a free community and then change it to charging. I mean, you guys did the other thing, which I was going to mention is what do you think about starting a free community, staying free, and then eventually creating a second community that's paid? I know that school charges you 99
yeah.
for both, right? Or no, 99 each.
Um, that can work as well. That's kind of what we did in a sense. But the free community is kind of dead because we don't really pay attention to it. We wanted to do it, but it wasn't worth actually splitting focus.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of lying there right now, and we're deciding what to do with it. Um, yeah, that can work because the cool thing with a free community is you can use it as a lead magnet. So you could put your
Yeah,
courses in
Adonis
your
gang
lead
does that.
magnet.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a cool system. Hamza's crushing it on school.
Yeah.
So yeah, that works. If you use your free community as a funnel to your paid, that's pretty cool. And we're actually kind of reshaping some stuff right now that can kind of goes in a direction like that. Um,
Yeah. I think something that might be powerful for the free community is like when you guys did the thing where they got free access to the masterclass, like on the
mhm,
wheel. And then maybe I just I calls take up so much time, but I don't know. Like each writing call, three people get access or something, just kind of that exclusivity of seeing what's in there.
mhm.
And you guys already have some free courses in there that they can do, but I think that exclusivity of that engagement of people, I think I'm in Nicholas Cole's Ghostwriting Anonymous, and he'll have people comment on his YouTube video, and he'll give him access to PGA, which is kind of a crazy way to get engagement. But I think you guys can do something similar, like each writing call, like three people or two people will
Yep,
be able to get in. It might also be refreshing to have some new faces in there as
definitely.
well. Or like uh 99 like an offers like $99 for the first month and you get a personalized breakdown from you because that's like that was so much value when you did that for me for free because it improved my writing so much. So maybe I think there's definitely some ways to keep it active. I mean, I think
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Hamza's able to keep it active because he asks so many questions, but also because he has so many people. He
Hmm.
has so many people that it's almost hard for it not to be active. But he also will kind of have moderators that will write questions or something like that. And it's a
Yep.
great way for
Yep.
market research as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. A really cool funnel if people want to do community and have this kind of free to paid is in the free community, you use that as a qualification process. So you put a form basically to sign up to your free community. That form has questions. Let's say you only help coaches and consultants. Then you'd have are you a coach and consultant? If it's no, you don't let them in. If it's yes, you let them in. And then every person that joins, you get on a discovery call with them. So the moment they join the free community, you get on a call to one present to do market research. So you ask them what's the main thing they want to see in a paid community. You do that with like 20, 30 people. Um, and by doing that, you get enough to understand, okay, what someone wants from a paid community. You base your offer off of that. And then every person that joins the free now, you pitch them the paid. So your free becomes basically a lead
Lead magnet.
generation
Yeah.
system. Yeah. Um, and because they just join, you can get on a sales call pretty easily with each person, just one to present them the community and also be like, I mean, here's an offer. I have this paid one if you enjoy this free one. And that's a pretty powerful system. So
Yeah. Maybe this is a question for Alex or Mosi is what his recommendation is if you're running a free and a paid and how to keep the free community engaged while running two with that split focus and how to convert. Because that's
yeah,
probably useful to a lot of people. Because
yeah,
it seems Hamza is
yeah.
one
I
of the only
actually
people that does that.
write that down. Actually, I know.
Because it seemed like that was the only space that you guys are really having sort of systemized. Like you guys have these calls down in the paid community. So yeah. Uh this is interesting actually. How much time do you usually spend usually on maintaining and growing X order? And it doesn't seem like you guys are in a growth phase right now, but I guess maintaining.
um, it doesn't take too much. I think it takes the breakdowns take a lot.
Yeah.
Every Monday that takes me like 3 to 4 hours to do. Um, overall, it should take. I think it takes us 20, 20 hours each, maybe a week. Maybe a bit less actually.
Where you systemize it.
Yeah, yeah. But right now we are very focused on not just maintaining. Maintaining doesn't take too long. We just have to show up every day and make sure everything's running smoothly. Um, but growing is the next step. Right now we're building out programs and kind of reframing everything because this was our first community run. So we learned a lot, and right now we're just basically reshaping everything based on what we learned. Um, the biggest issue we had is we didn't build enough systems and SOPs around hosts, the calls, and stuff like that. So it got a bit overwhelming at some points.
Yeah.
But yeah,
This might be a helpful. One of the main reasons I actually joined is, I mean, I actually this could be one of the main reasons I joined was because of the masterclass. I got hooked with that kind of like you're gonna get a Dakota Robertson or um
mm.
someone else that came in. I forget who it was, like that sort of thing.
We should
Danko.
have yeah, Dan should be coming
Mhm.
on soon.
Yeah, and that sort of hooked me in, and then I got obsessed with how much value there is in the calls, and it's probably even
Mhm.
more than a masterclass in some ways because it's personalized, but something powerful might be to do like a giveaway on Twitter of like, all right, I guess you can't get so many people in, but I mean, two thoughts is like you see, do a post or like some kind of post on a post that does well, like we're letting three people in for the Danco masterclass from Twitter or something like that,
Mhm.
getting
Yeah.
people in. And then this is another idea is like if you have a big guest on, you launch a giveaway and maybe you have 100 to 500 people on the call with Danco, which might be a thought.
Yeah, we were actually thinking of doing that. Yeah, for one of them, uh,
Yeah.
would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's something. And then if you had to start over with your community, what would you do to get to where you are now faster? And maybe faster is not the right word because you don't want to speed through it, but
Spend more time on outreach. I think that's the main thing. Even though yeah, it's again comes back to the inputs outputs. I think we don't spend enough time on growth. Um, all you really need, I think, for a successful community is the right people inside, and then you just being active every single day. So if someone wants to grow a community fast, yes, you can do it fast, and that's mostly just build a few courses, get clear on your plan and systems that you're actually gonna teach inside. So I don't know, batch the next month, a month of calls or something. So you're clear on that, and then actually, yeah, that's the main thing I would have done is done that. Like off the bat, define the next 3 months of topics and calls and posts, uh, and then batch everything in like a week. So spend 1 week fully only focused on building out the next 2 3 months of calls, and that's all I would do. Because once that's built, all you need to do is show up every day and present what you've already built.
yeah, that's
So
really smart.
yeah, that's what I would do, and that's what we're doing right now.
Mhm.
And then second is once that's built out, focus all my time on outreach. I don't think we've done enough, and I think growth is really important for a community because in any case you're gonna get churn after 3 4 months. People get bored, even though it's good. Um, the hype kind of dies down. So if you're not constantly growing, I think you start really going down, and the more you go down, the more people start leaving. Um,
Yeah.
so that's what I would do. I would spend about 1 week defining everything, 1 week building everything and batching everything, and then full focus on outreach and just presenting what you've built.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I guess one benefit of a cohort is that the hype stays around because there's a limited time in it. I wonder if there's some way to implement. That might be another question for Alex or Mosley. How do you implement that hype in a community to reduce churn, even if
Yeah,
it's super valuable?
yeah, we're actually thinking of some stuff like that because we are thinking of charging a bit more. Um, it wouldn't change for you guys inside, but
Yeah.
we're thinking of charging a bit more and going more in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there's some way also to do like a 30-day challenge or something that would keep
Yep.
people
Yep.
engaged, something like that. Like send in your writing thing on school or something like that, what you wrote for the day on school or how many words or something like that.
Yep.
Moving over to sort of the first glimpse of what I knew that you were very good at was it with writing. How do you recommend writing viral threads or just viral content in general?
Hmm.
It's pretty broad,
First of
but
all, no, it's not a bad question. First of all, I'm gonna actually bring up a tweet that I wrote a few days back because um you can go viral writing about what you love, but never sacrifice what you
oh,
love
I
to
love
go
that.
viral.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I think a lot of people make the mistake of basically focusing on topics that others went viral with, without understanding why they went viral. So it's not the idea that goes viral. It's really more the framework and the way you present your ideas. So
Authority hacking threads right now definitely is, I think,
yeah,
one of
yeah,
those.
yes. But yeah. So overall, the main system I think, and the problem people have is that they try, they do write their hooks off the dome. They don't have a swipe file, and they don't have anything to base their hooks on. Uh, and it's really weird. There's this weird thing on X where a lot of people have a bad perspective on frameworks and templates, but they're there for a reason and they work for a reason. Um, even Danco uses templates. Even all the big copywriters use frameworks. They've been created because they work, not because of anything else. Because they yeah. So main thing is build a swipe file, get really clear, understand why stuff works, break down hooks, analyze stuff instead of just going off the dome. So like get 10 hooks you enjoyed and then went viral and look at them and think, okay, what's the pattern between these? What's the framework they use? Is it PAS, which is pain, agitate, solution? Is it ADA, so attention, desire, interest, action?
Yeah.
Um, so it's basically breaking stuff down to the principles, understanding the principles that go viral, and then plugging your ideas into those principles.
Yep. That's what I noticed with your purpose-based branding is that your unique content and ideas and perspective, and you're plugging it into these frameworks that have been proven to work. It's two
Yep.
things there. It sounds like almost the best skill to get better at most things, but especially writing, is that intelligent imitation and awareness. Awareness is so powerful everywhere, but just that conscious consumption, plugging my course, but
Mm-hmm.
conscious consuming everything is so powerful because you just notice like, oh, okay, that was there, this is there. Okay, why'd they write their hook like that? It's just so powerful. And I think that's seems like that's why I think the writing calls are so valuable that you have in the community because you have those examples and sometimes you guys will break down one of those threads that they write and it's just powerful. And I think that's also why the breakdowns that you do are powerful, probably for you learning, but also us, because it's almost intelligently imitating in some way
Mm-hmm.
because you're breaking it down. Like this was good, but this didn't work and things like that. Would you say that's improved your writing the most out of anything?
Um, I think so, yes, because it's again, there's not that many principles to good writing. It's really around like relatability, curiosity, conversational writing, stuff like rate of revelation to have good rhythm and good presentation of your ideas. Um, so being able to just kind of repeat those in a sense, and myself having to go through I've done probably hundreds of breakdowns because I do it for my one-on-one clients as well. And just doing that over and over and over, noticing where the principles are being applied or not applied over and over and over. Yeah, it's been super helpful. It's been pretty cool, yeah. And it's the favorite part of most people's stuff. Like all my one-on-one clients, that's what they love most, breaking down their stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's unique. I don't see a lot of people do that.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know where I came up with it actually.
it's so powerful though, because it's just so much more useful than seeing the principles without the application of them. And
Yeah.
even the principles of applied to not your writing it definitely isn't as good as seeing the principles applied to your own writing. So,
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think that's one of the big selling points I put forward when I'm presenting that offer, and I mentioned that is because I think a big issue with courses is that you're thrown like 30 principles in your face and you're like, okay, apply these, and you don't know where to start. So you don't know how to you know you have examples of how they are applied, but not all together, and they're not all
yeah.
it's super confusing. Whereas a breakdown a week, you basically get to see to stack your skills because you get you see what you've done wrong this week and then you focus on that during that week, and then the next week you see what you did wrong that time and you focus on that week. So you're stacking everything instead of trying to implement everything at once and getting overwhelmed. um
Yeah.
and that can actually also be applied into your own stuff. Like you could take your own piece of writing and break it down once a week,
Yeah, that's really
um
smart.
and then see what you've done wrong and just focus purely that spend the whole week focusing on just mastering that thing that you got wrong the most, and then do that again the next week and do that again the next week.
Yeah. One thing there that I think you pointed out is that something I've noticed is that now, like especially people provide these courses. Like I joined this copywriting course and it has so much content. And so it's like so much value, but because it's
Mm-hmm.
so much, it almost just negates the value that there's there because it's just so much to process. And I think the next stage in courses for this is some prediction is that courses are just going to stop, or like the selling point is going to stop being you get all this. It's going to be that you get this and you don't need
Mm-hmm.
personalized help because it's so hard to take 7 different courses that are each worth $700 and they sell it for like 497 and it's like, oh, this is a no-brainer. But then you actually go through and it's just so much you have to connect the dots with, and it's almost out of context rather than going through it at your own pace and then applying it. So that was something. And then why do you think academic writing doesn't work? Like, on maybe you don't think that, but it seems like that conversational writing.
No, it doesn't. I mean, yeah, it doesn't work with social media. I think on social media, people are looking to have that relatability and that connection basically with the people. It's like people that do it very well, like Danko, you feel like you know Danko, like you know his life, you feel like he's kind of your friend, but he doesn't know who you are. If he's probably hasn't heard of you, so, and that's the same with most creators. And I think most people look for that relationship in a sense. They look for that conversational tone. They look to um, feel like they're being spoken to, basically. Whereas academic writing is very broad. It's like you're not speaking to one person. You're not speaking with conversational tone. You're just presenting a point. But if you do that, then what's the difference between you and ChatGPT? Um, if people wanted the information, they would literally go to ChatGPT or go to Google.
Yeah.
On social media, they're not there for information. They're more there to get their attention caught, feel relatable, and then through that get in a sense tricked into learning.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I feel like the closest thing to sort of academic writing is the newsletter, even though it's better to include
Yeah.
story, but it's more long form, so it's a little more academic. And the other thing that I noticed when I was in college writing class is that the difference between academic writing in school and like writing on social media is that people don't have to read your writing on social media. Like there's no like you have to be good or else you're not getting results. It's not like
Yeah.
you do get to write and then the teacher looks over it and like you feel like you're owed something. Like I finished the college writing class, people are supposed to read my writing. It's like no, your teacher was supposed to read your writing. So I think
Yeah.
that, and then there's a caveat like the breakdowns you do, like sure, like that long form I wrote was probably terrible, so no one was going to read it, but it was also you had the lens of allowing more people to see my ideas with the structure.
Mhm.
Yeah. So next thing is why did you become obsessed with compelling writing? I think I have a guess, but
I don't think it's just writing.
yeah.
But I do really like writing. I love it. I really like the skill ceiling behind it because it's like I hate when I was playing video games. Bringing back to that, I hate story games because there's not story games, but like kind of those choice games where you have to make a lot of choices. I hate that because there's not much skill ceiling, and I like basically having so
Mm,
much depth behind something that I know that I can just show up every day and train and just see improvement for so long because there's so much depth behind it. And I know I want to see how far I can go into that depth and how good I can get at that. And writing is one of the places where I see that the most. Because yes, in video or speech as well, there's a lot of depth like that, but not as much as writing, I think. And I think writing is really that foundation as well of everything else.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it really is that skill ceiling and the level of mastery I can get. I want to see how far, how well, how good my writing can be in 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. And it also is super powerful because it's not just like one type of writing. Like tweet writing is different than thread writing, the way you write a long form, the way you write a book,
yeah,
like it all
definitely.
newsletter. Like there's just so many levels. And I definitely thought it might be that mastery aspect. And that mastery aspect was something that really resonated for me with Rocket League was like mastering
Mhm.
all the mechanics and also why I like soccer, but Rocket League is obviously is less friction to learning a soccer skill, but then the reward isn't as good. But yeah, but it's also interesting. Like I kind of learned lessons about mastery from Rocket League. Like I used to listen to Rocket League coaches, and one of the things they said was like people are kind of worried about their positioning and what they're able to do, but
Mhm.
it's better to focus on the mechanics and building the skill because the skills are what allows you to make the decision. So like if you can only like in soccer, you can only you're so focused on trying to be able to control the ball when it's passed to you, you can't even think about trying to do like a finesse pass to midfield. So it's like that if you have to build that skill and then that game sense is the next step in most areas, I'd say. So that was like one
Definitely.
lesson that I learned from a Rocket League coach. Best people to learn from. It's funny. Um, next what would be three things you would recommend to people who want better writing? It could be more than three, less than three, whatever kind of come to mind.
I think it's kind of what I mentioned. It's like relatability, conversational, and um, structure slash rhythm. So when say that, it's like make sure your every sentence is presenting a new piece of information to always keep that the flow going, or uh, uh, varying sentence length or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Basically, I think that's such low hanging fruit. It's really, can I say this in less? Am I presenting new info with each sentence? Stuff like that. It's so easy to change, but it has such an impact. Um, Conversational is like write like you speak. So a cool tip I've found for this is to read it. Well, one, speaking out loud when I'm writing. Um, so basically, I speak out loud as I'm actually typing,
Ooh.
and then also reading it out loud once it's written. And that's both of those has helped me a lot with conversational aspects of stuff. And for relatability, it's just like speak to one person's life situation. So once you define who you're helping, actually call out their specific situations. A lot of people are scared to do that because they think, am I not going to be alienating a lot of people? Like, if I'm too specific with one life situation, there's so many people that are not going to read or not relate or anything like that. But if you try being too broad, you're not going to relate with anyone. So,
Yeah.
um,
Something interesting there, I feel like, is even if you write about a specific situation that they can't directly relate it to, they can almost relate it to another experience that's
yeah.
similar, which is another thing. Like the feeling that you get from that situation. Like they might not have had the same situation, but they might get the same feeling from another experience they
Mhm.
had. And then some I thought I had is I wonder what you think of this is writing your content with pen and paper. I wonder if there's something to
Mm.
that.
I've never tried.
Yeah, me
I
neither, but
don't know.
I thought maybe there's something. I think there's probably evolutionarily something with writing with pen and paper.
Oh yeah, I love writing with pen and paper. Like most of my, like some people journal on a laptop. I can't for some reason. I can like I don't like it when journaling on a piece of paper. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Um,
It's also so much
yeah,
fewer distractions.
yeah, definitely,
Mm.
definitely.
Yeah. For writing hooks, what would you recommend for people that want to write incredibly compelling hooks? Since if you don't write a good hook, no one's going to read your writing anyway. So,
It's exactly the same thing as the viral hooks one. Like literally one exactly the same thing. Get a swipe file and start
yep.
understanding the principles behind the hooks instead of randomly
Intelligent
writing
imitation.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For so long I was just writing my hooks basically just randomly. I was like, okay, what am I writing about? So I'll kind of write this. I had no clue what I was doing, but I was just randomly doing a hook.
Yep.
But I think main thing, even if you don't want to have a swipe file, which you should have one, but main thing is understanding stuff like PAS, ADA, or BAB, or those main frameworks, because those just work over and over. And there's so much to be done inside one framework that you have so many possibilities. But at least it gives structure to what you're doing.
Yeah. Another thing is, I think once you start to understand that structure and the templates that work is, and you ingrain them, it's almost like you start to learn how you can break them in a way that will make them do
Yes.
even better.
Yes.
Like I saw Dan Coe write something, and it's just like doesn't really follow anything, but it almost stands out because it doesn't follow any of the writing rules in some way. So it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Kind of
also the
basically
aspect
like
that people are kind of just reading his stuff anyway because he has so many people.
yeah, at Dan's level, that's he can probably write anything. He could probably write high and it would go viral. Uh,
Were you gonna? Sorry, I think I interrupted you before. So.
no, it's fine. So I forgot them now. So
Um, moving on to Twitter, what would you say your content system is for that currently?
um, I use a system I actually got from Dan. So it's like newsletter once a week. Most of my what I write is based on that newsletter. I send the traffic to that newsletter from the short forms. Um, so right now I'm doing like one newsletter a week, 3 threads a week, um, short form a day, and I'm implementing a new system though, where I want to do one YouTube video a week.
Yeah,
But
me too.
basically, I have three types of long forms. So I have like I have my newsletter long form, so it's a long form based on my newsletter. I
Yeah.
have my creative long forms, which are long forms that are I outline kind of just on what I want to write about right now, still framing it under my values and my stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
and then I have my curated long forms, which are basically curated from other ideas, like those huge, like I don't know, threads on Alex Ramosi or stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
and
one would you say
for
you
the
do the most out of the long forms?
I have a mix of all, so it's like I do 3 threads a week, so I do one of each
Oh,
every week. And for the newsletter one, I'm pretty hyped to start doing this. But once I start doing my YouTube videos, I want to basically also implement videos into that threads. So that thread
ooh,
is basically my newsletter and my YouTube video into a thread,
that's clever.
which I think yeah, I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I've never
So
seen someone
I'm
do that. That's really smart.
yeah, yeah. So I'm
Writing
excited
that
for
down.
that. Plus, it seems like YouTube, I mean, videos are starting to do pretty good on X. People are
Mhm.
actually watching them more and more.
And
It's starting
images too.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for that. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah. It seems that's what it's trending towards is the that's definitely a way to stand out right now is pictures of yourself or videos because
Yeah,
people just don't see that ever. I'm
yeah.
afraid
There's a
it's turning
huge
into
trend right now
Instagram,
with
but
yeah, yeah. There's a trend where people keep putting selfies everywhere.
yeah.
Like I'm seeing so many selfies right now. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think for me, like selfies kind of fun, but I would rather try to curate a picture that's related to the post. Because
Yeah,
I don't know, I just don't want to start to treat it like an Instagram thing where I'm just posting selfies for no reason. But
yeah.
I mean, that's also I'm not very a person that's I have probably more pictures of my dogs than I have of me, so it's just not something I do often.
Same. I don't really take selfies much. But I'm excited for the videos for one. Yeah, yeah, that's I think it's gonna be a good way to stand out. Like I don't see anyone right now consistently doing video threads. I see one every so often, but there's not people doing like once a week where there's a video thread or something like that.
Yeah,
Which I think is exciting, it's interesting to hop on before it actually starts
yeah.
taking off.
The only person that I've seen turn the YouTube video sort of into a thread recently that didn't perform that well. I think it's better to turn the newsletter into a YouTube video, then turn it back or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Get it validated on Twitter, but Vigo turned a YouTube video into a thread. I mean,
That guy,
8,000
he's
impressions.
crushing it.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
insane.
he's crushing it.
I mean, 8,000 impressions isn't good for him, but I mean, it still did well for his audience, but definitely he experimenting with transitioning to video content. And then next one, guys kind of answer this. Do you have different kinds of content that you write? It covered that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one point I would say on that to just add on what I said, because I have the newsletter curated and creative. Um, you can, I think people should look at what they enjoy writing most in terms of long forms and really define them, because once you define them and give them names, you can put them into SOPs and systems, and that's where it gets so easier. So that's just one point. Defining them is like so important.
Yeah, the awareness. It's so
Yeah.
crucial.
Again. Yeah.
Um, what do you think changes in growth strategy from different levels in the Twitter game, 0 to 500, or whatever it is? Because I think the stages are arbitrary, but there's definitely stages to the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think too much, except for that initial growth, because initially you have literally no community at all. So I think at that initial stage, it's really focusing on just getting into people's DMs, creating friendships, creating relationships, creating that initial mastermind in a sense,
Yeah,
uh, and really focusing on networking. But once in only a few weeks, you can get to a consistent like 10 to 15 comments on your posts just for doing something like that. So I think that's the initial stage. And once you have then that's when you focus on creating better content, I think, on content that because you have that initial boost. So you have enough for good content to get new eyeballs. Um, and then I don't see any very much more than that. Like I haven't changed what I do in a sense. I still post every single day. I still engage every day with the people I want to engage with. It's mostly just building deeper connections.
Yeah. Something I noticed for me relating to the comments is I kind of took a break from really engaging on the timeline or anything like that. And right now I probably maybe get 3 to 10 comments at the most on posts. And something I noticed is that usually comments that you get, people that comment consistently are usually at a lower follower count than you, because that's some kind of psychological thing. So something I'm starting to doing is like each day I'm commenting on 20 accounts that I'm friends with, like people have been on the podcast, like things like that.
Hmm.
And I think that builds that reciprocity because people I've had on the podcast are bigger than me. So I think there's like less of an obligation to comment, because like I
Hmm.
would comment like at 50 followers, I comment on people that are at 200. But right now I probably don't do that as much. And then another thing is I think I'm going to comment on the people that are consistently commenting on mine because I don't have that many people right
That's what I
now.
do.
Yeah, because I just think it's shows that appreciation to comment on people that are consistently commenting on yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I did is this helped me a lot to basically scale the amount of engagement I get as well. Is just basically I had a list that would constantly be shifting like every week. So I would add people in, engage with them. If they start engaging back, then I keep engaging with them. And if they don't start engaging back, I remove them from that list.
Yeah, that's
Um,
really smart.
and it took me only like a month to actually scale that. And then those people now have the same list, and I've had it for a while. And it's like this, I don't know, 40 people in there, but they're all actually, well, I don't see them as friends per se, but they're people that I know well, that I've spoken with, etc. And I don't really engage with anyone I don't know anymore.
Yeah, definitely think that's something like I need to start doing is engaging. I kind of fell into the trap of being like, I don't care about engagement. I'm just gonna try to do content. And I don't think I'm
Yeah.
at that stage yet where like once you're at, I think 1,000 to 2,000 followers, it starts to get at the stage where people are lower. There's a good amount of the creator economy that's lower follower count, so they will just comment almost like
Mhm.
psychologically, like they're doing the daily engagements for the day and there's just comments on you. And then you also have those people that are super connected. But I think that's really smart is sort of commenting on those people, see if they engage back, not being like one of those people. I know I just recently got a DM that was like, I love your content, dropped you a follow. I was like,
Yeah,
thanks.
same.
And then he unfollowed me a day later because I didn't follow back. So
Yeah. No. I think yeah, that's one thing. I don't really engage much. I take like 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to engage with others. And that seems to be enough.
yeah,
I think the main thing people should focus on is in replying to people in their own comments and building
exactly. Yeah.
deep connection there. So actually building that community aspect.
Yeah. Something I just kind of noticing is it's a little harder to grow now. It seems like everyone's complaining about the algorithm. And I feel like it's almost better to not to build like it's awesome to build a large audience, but it's almost I think better to build a large audience in depth of the connection you have with the people that are in your audience,
Mhm.
because that's why I'm doing more story long forms because you just build that connection and kind of relating it to my values that I have that I've been doing. I accidentally actually, but now that I'll be more conscious with your purpose-based branding, it'll also be more on purpose so I can replicate that. But that's something I've noticed is, but there's still people that are able to grow. Like this one girl has been on X for like 60 days or something, and she's at 2,500, which is like,
I mean,
dude,
Vigo as well, and there's Stein that's going pretty well.
yeah. The authority
Vigo
hacking
just
threads
blew
are,
my mind. It's like he was. I have no clue how he grew so fast. He went past me like in just a few. Like, yeah,
yeah.
congrats to
So
him. It's crazy.
right now I'm trying to crack the code of how he was able to write that viral thread, which was
Hmm.
that like because that I think that is the most impressive thread I've seen. Not that's because of the results, because he didn't hack authority from anybody. There was no paid
Hmm.
reposts, and he just talked about himself. But it got 280,000 impressions, which is like nothing you see anymore. Everyone's hacking authority, and I think that's why he was able to gain 2,000 followers or something like that, 1,500 from like 280,000 impressions, which is a pretty good conversion rate from what I've seen. So that's something I'm trying to crack the code to is how to write those threads that you aren't hacking authority and going viral.
But it goes to show it's all consistency because it's like every time you post, it's kind of like spinning the wheel of luck.
Hmm.
Uh, every
Yeah.
single time you post, you never know when one single post can change your entire growth. It's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
insane. The funny thing about that thread is that that's the first thread Vigo ever wrote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know how, but he's definitely very good at writing tweets and that stuff. But
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I think the other thing that helped that go viral is he basically gets paid reposts because his audience is so engaged. He had an
Hmm.
incredibly engaged audience. So it's almost like he replaces the paid reposts with his community that he built.
Yep.
Um, this one we kind of covered this. So if you had to start, but next question, if you had to start over on X, what would you do to get where you are now faster with the knowledge you have?
Yeah, mostly the same as I just said,
Mhm.
I think. I would, yeah, focus on getting that mastermind, initial mastermind, building connections, building friendships. I would probably monetize faster than I did this time. I would um, kind of just get over that fear
Yeah.
and start pitching my offer and start selling something or start building something at least, and like, start helping for a few people for free. Um, One big thing that I didn't do earlier on is market research. Just speak to your audience, get on calls with them, ask what their problems are, understand their actual life situation. You'll see patterns, and being able to actually see what call out what actual people are facing is
Yeah.
really powerful. Uh, so I think that's one thing people don't do enough is that market research, and they just kind of go say stuff.
That makes a lot of
So
sense.
yeah,
Um,
overall same thing.
yeah, definitely understanding your audience is super powerful. And I think it also goes back to that awareness of you, because if you're solving your past problems, you have to be aware of your past problems. If you're not conscious of what's going on, it'll be harder because you can do market research by hopping on calls with people and also hopping on calls with yourself, like kind of introspecting and seeing what's going on in your own mind and what you've solved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what would you say are some of the common misconceptions people have about Twitter and social media? I mean, for Twitter, I think of that people just think it's politics. That's the first thing I think of as the misconception.
Um, I think a lot of people just think it's a scam. I think that's the biggest thing. I used to believe it was a scam as well, or that it was just not possible to actually grow online. Um, I think that's the main one because the moment you realize it's not a scam and you start doing it yourself, it becomes really really fun.
Yeah,
Uh, I think that's the main thing. People think it's some kind of hoax and it's not actually real. And every single creator is someone that's trying to
it's a
steal the
scammer.
money of the
Yeah,
yeah yeah. I think
yeah.
that's the biggest thing.
I think people usually think it's a scam. Not only just trying to become a creator, but social media in general, just because most people are being used by it instead of using it. Like the majority of the
Yeah.
population is just being used by social media rather than using it as a tool. So it's just like herd mentality of like this is the only use you have for it. It's like it's not even really like, and also they're following influencers, which and not really educators. So it's like this, it definitely put influencers on a pedestal because it's just like,
Mhm.
they're something about them or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
educators, I think you put them on a pedestal in a different way sometimes, but it's also like I can reach that because it's building skills rather than good genetics or whatever it is, or personality and things like that. And next, what would you say is your biggest lessons on your journey in the creator economy?
Mm. So, funnily enough, the one that comes up and that I live most of my life by, and it really has helped me a lot, is very paradoxical and counterintuitive to the whole purpose stuff, which is very funny. But I'll say a quote first of all, and then explain my perspective. There's a quote from actually the book is right here. This book right here, The Wheel of Time, really good book. Um, there's a quote in it because it's all about the perspective of shamans in ancient Mexico on life and death and everything like that. Oh, it's like I'm gonna butcher it probably, but it's the warrior knows that he doesn't matter or that nothing matters but he must continue acting as if he was doing the most important thing, something like that. Um, and it brings to this lesson of fundamentally nothing actually truly does matter, which is kind of in a nihilistic perspective. And this is why I like Alex Hormozy, because he has the same worldview, where you're gonna die anyways, and the universe is gonna completely disappear one day. So there's nothing that you do that will actually ever truly impact anything, because everything just is on the same level. There's nothing higher or lower than the other. And that's the biggest thing. I think it's brought me a lot of peace, because I realized that there isn't anything else to do than love, basically. So good or bad, it's experience, and it's there's still it's like kind of like, I see love as one of the fabrics of reality, in a sense, where it really is. There isn't anything else to do than that.
Yeah.
And there's no true meaning to it, but you get to create your own meaning, because there isn't any meaning. So it's basically, you get to create your own experience, and
You're the main
love that
character
experience
of your life.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the main thing. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people would see that as like a lot of people would, when I tell them in real life, because I have a few friends I try explaining these concepts to, and they're like, I mean, if there's no meaning, then what's the point? Why should I even get out of bed in the morning? Why should I even do something like that? But that's the point. The point is that there is no point, and that you get to create your own
point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest one that I've ever had in this whole journey, and it's helped me so much, because it removes all the stress, basically, and not the stress, because you're going to be stressed anyways. We're all human.
Yeah, but getting stuck in that, maybe.
Yeah,
stuck in
it basically. Yeah, it's like you have to remove the importance of everything while still acting as if it was the most important thing, as that quote says.
It's almost like a blank slate. You remove the importance, and then you get to create that purpose and meaning to the things that you decide. Like, it almost is like helpful when you've been programmed to be told what's important, to realize none of it matters, and then decide what matters.
Yeah, exactly. But it removes a lot of the hard aspects of the stuff, even though it's hard.
Yeah. I think there's like two things with the people that say there's, then what's the point, is like, yes, we're gonna die, but it's like more about how did you want to live your whole life, like that. If it, I don't know, I guess there's perspective. I didn't say it as well as I would like. There's somebody, I don't know, I feel like somebody I used to listen to who said this well, but I can't remember exactly. But from this podcast, I really realized you're really interested in spirituality. So I was thinking we could dive into that a little more, even though it wasn't originally on the questions. But I understand if you have, this has gone longer than I had expected, but it's been a very good conversation. So I just wanted to ask if you would be willing.
Be willing to definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have some questions, spirituality, that I keep in my little bank because I like talking about this stuff. So
I really didn't see the time, but yeah, go ahead.
Crazy. What would you say has been your biggest sort of realizations throughout your life? Like, this nihilistic point of view of nothing matters was probably one of them.
Yeah, I have some really weird ones, in a sense. Not weird, but that a lot of people would probably think I'm completely crazy for, in a sense. But first of all, is that everything is basically like you, in a sense. It's very hard to wrap your head around, but literally every single thing you see right now is all yourself that's creating it, because there can't be any other way than that. Because if you're not, your consciousness has to be able to create this to be able to even see it, basically.
Yeah.
So everything that's happening around us is just it's kind of like a mirror facing a mirror. It's like your consciousness is creating everything around you and then interpreting itself through consciousness.
Yeah.
It's so trippy. It's
I think I know exactly what you mean, because it's like things are what they are, but you almost project a meaning of what they mean to your consciousness.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like, how could you go throughout life without anything meaning anything? Like, that's a tree. Great.
Yeah, exactly. The only reason that all mean, basically, it comes back to, this is a concept also that I broke down in that system I showed in the call, where it's all meaning is just given. Nothing fundamentally has a meaning. A phone is a phone because we said it was a phone, defined what a phone is, and gave it a blah blah blah. And same with every single other thing in existence. Not everything is basically the same fabric, the same, fundamentally the same thing, and the only reason it is what it is because we said it was that thing. So um, reality, understanding, beliefs, everything is basically human created. Like the reason we can speak is because that's human created. Literally every meaning, without giving it meaning, we would just, it would be nothing. We wouldn't even. It would be just pure
Our
consciousness,
would be
basically, like
chaos,
a
and
state of
if we tried to apply our logical mind to something that had no
yeah,
meaning. Yeah.
yeah. So that's one of the big ones. It's really that realizing that you are, funnily enough, the creator, not the creator of the actual creator in a sense of everything around you. It's like
Yep.
really the whole of your reality is completely generated by you at this current time,
Yeah, I love
and then
that. It's
interpreted by
so
you as well.
powerful because
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I definitely got that feeling from reading the book Power of Now, and now this recent book I'm
Ah,
reading
yes, yes.
is
Love.
this old book that I got because I'm in Russell Brunson's community is like a book that's unpublished, but it talks about how your life doesn't affect your predominant moods. Your predominant moods create your life because your
Mm,
predominant moods create your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions. So you're because I've often been pessimistic, I'd say most of my life, and this book's kind of shifted that. It's like optimists see the long term, like pessimists get so focused on now and how it's bad, but the optimist can see like in a long term perspective, and it's just so much more powerful. Like just the frame of mind and the lens you have creates your world. Like you said, like you can create your
yep.
world to serve your highest goals and beliefs and whatever you want. Yeah, so that was something. And then you said you've, I don't know, dabbled in psychedelics, but you've done psychedelics. What has your experience been like with that?
Um, Pretty interesting. I don't really speak about it much on my own brand because even though I'm pro psychedelics, I don't want my brand to be too close to that.
Yeah, you can get kind
Um,
of involved in that sort of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
stereotypical.
exactly. Then I don't have any problem speaking about it, but yeah, I have actually probably mentioned it once on my X yet. Um, but yeah, it's been pretty positive, to be honest. I think from I try to understand psychedelics a lot, so I don't just want to mindlessly take it and then be like, yeah, wow, I tripped. I saw those pink elephants or something. I don't really care about the visuals either. I think the main thing lessons I try to pull from it, and the main frame I've interpreted it from is basically whenever I'm on a psychedelic state, I get to a point where my mentality is really at its peak. Like I don't have any worries. I kind of see my life as okay. I understand why there's no point being in these negative mindsets anymore.
Yeah,
And yes, it feels good, but and then when you come back down, you go back to your original state. But that's how I see it. Is basically the psychedelic shows you a state of where you can get to naturally, and when you come back down, your goal is basically to find how you can get to there naturally and how to live in that state,
yeah, I
how
love
to
that.
actually um, get there on your own.
Hmm.
Um,
That's something I think about is like I wonder if it's more powerful to get to those psychedelic states through deep meditation and introspection. I think there is something to that. I think it's powerful. Maybe that psychedelics show people that it's possible, basically like what you said. But I think there's something so powerful to not needing that thing to be able to access that.
Definitely, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. I'm I don't have a set thing on psychedelics yet. I haven't taken them in a while though, in a year or so because I'm just so focused on what I'm doing. Uh, but I'm definitely interested in them. I think it's really interesting because the experiences I've had on them is you couldn't explain it without trying it. Basically, it's like it's
Yep,
literally
out of
you
this
can't even
world.
put words. Yeah, you can't even put words on it. So yeah, that's basically it's really interesting. But overall, I've had very positive outcomes out
That's
of
good.
just understanding myself through those things.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost in some ways, this might be controversial, but it's more powerful for some people that might have a more logical mind than
Hmm.
the spiritual mind in itself,
Yeah,
because it almost is like I feel like spiritual might become dependent on it, but it also, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like I feel like logical almost has a reference that allows you to sort of become more actionable on it because I don't know. I don't know. Something that was just a thought I had, but I don't know how to put it into words that well.
Yeah. I think the benefits, main benefits I've gotten from it is the first time I took psychedelics, it completely shattered all my beliefs of what reality is.
Mm.
So all those pre-framed stuff from school, from
Like
this, from that, from
logical beliefs.
yeah, exactly. All the kind of um paradigm that we're kind of forced on, like the forced to believe when we're going up for school or stuff that society has as a whole, completely got shattered. And weirdly, that psychedelics was where I started really getting into thinking there must be a different way to live than what most people do, and that's actually kind of what got me into this whole field as well.
That's
So
awesome.
um,
Yeah, Jack Mosey
yeah, I
tells
think
us
that's the
someone that's what
yeah
got him into creator economy.
yeah, because it really it's such a radical experience that you're like, oh wow, like what everything I believed is completely false in a sense.
Hmm. Or that you
Because
get to choose what to believe.
yeah, basically. But all the set beliefs that you thought reality was this certain way, they get proved wrong because you see the complete opposite, and you're like, it's such a weird experience. Um, and yeah, it's benefited me a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
I should speak about it to Jack about it at some point. That would be dope. 'Cause we
Yeah, it's really
kind of touched
interesting.
on it as well, but
Yeah, it's so interesting. Interesting topic. Have you ever watched the documentary Fantastic Fungi?
I have not.
I'll have to send it to you. Have you heard of Paul Stamets? Oh, really? Okay, so I'll send you these two in Telegram because they talk about it. Paul Stamets is obsessed with like and mushrooms.
Yeah.
He's kind of guy that brought it back, and then Fantastic Fungi talks about psychedelics and the war on drugs and that sort of stuff. And that this is one thing from it that I thought was interesting is that like how humans were able to evolve so fast, like relatively, is that
Mm-hmm.
they were like when they started like I don't know in the evolution theory of chimpanzees and like humans started having like these psychedelic experiences opening their consciousness and maybe like
Mm-hmm.
how could you come up with the idea of thought like how can
Yeah.
like or like speaking without
Yeah.
some kind of experience that radically shifts. It's this really interesting documentary, so I'll send that to you.
Definitely. That's interesting.
What advice would you give to your younger self or young people today about how to live a purposeful and meaningful life?
Mm, one ties into that first lesson I said where you should remove kind of the importance and stuff. Uh, you basically want to maximize that feeling of weightlessness in a sense, where uh, basically seeing everything as fun. See, looking at every experience and thinking, what's the
What can I
how can
create?
yeah, what can I create and what how can I enjoy this the most? Even if a bad experience, it's really interesting. Where if you're unconsciously going through the bad experience, it's just gonna feel horrible. But if you're going through a bad experience, I don't know, let's say, uh, last week you were getting really good results, and for some reason this week it's like completely down, etc. When you take a step back, and I've realized this in my life, when I take a step back and I think, okay, how can I enjoy this experience? How can I get the most out of it?
Yeah,
Um,
that's
then it
so
completely, it
powerful.
instantly shifts. Yeah, it
Yeah,
instantly shifts
optimism.
into yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's actually one of my values, optimism slash hope. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's one of the main things that's really impacted my life the most. Really, is it's being able to really see life from that angle of nothing is fundamentally bad,
it
and
just
nothing is
is.
fundamentally good either.
Yeah,
Everything just is, and um, being able to not just say, "Oh, I understand," but actually embodying that principle is really powerful. Because then you can basically at that point kind of do anything, because it comes back to also that principle of input output. If you can basically control your input, so control your willpower, and to control your willpower, all you need to do is actually find a way to really love every experience so that you can do anything that you want to do. then you have complete control over your outputs. So
Yeah.
complete control of your life situation, your results, and everything like that. Um, so that's I think if you, applying that to your life is enough to get you to wherever you want to be.
Yeah. I feel like maybe the most powerful skill that there is, or I don't know, skill, but mindset. The most powerful thing you could do is to have optimism, not like the stupid optimism that people
Yeah.
sort of portrays. Like, I'm optimistic, everything is just gonna go great and I don't have to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
anything. But like,
definitely.
I think Naval has a quote that it's better to be an optimist that isn't being logical or something than a logical pessimist or something like that. I don't think that's
Mhm.
exactly what he said, but some quote for him, because it's just so powerful if you're able to see, like, just zooming out is like most powerful skills. Like, this growth is so bad this week, like whatever, and you zoom out and you're like, well, I this hook can be better. I could probably improve this. Next week, I'll learn something and I'll improve that. Like, it's just so powerful, that more optimistic
Yeah.
approach.
And you can even find fun in those hard moments. It's like something from Sam Ovens that I really like is he mentions loving pain a lot. Uh, which sounds so weird when you say it, but it's true. It's like when you actually love the pain of the struggle and the struggle and those hard times, then you just love every single moment of experience. I think that
Yeah.
a big issue people have is that they think love and happiness is tied together, and they think that they need to be able to feel love, they need to feel happy. But from what I've experienced, love is just basically a fundamental um
Law of the universe.
frame to be, yeah, it's basically a fundamental frame to be able to live from, which makes every experience worth going through.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly what you said there. Worth. Like, Sam Ovens probably isn't happier, like in the traditional sense, loves the pain, but he almost appreciates it. He sees the value in it,
Yeah, yeah.
which just allows him to, because obviously it's not like you're just gonna start like walking in front of cars and getting hit. It's like, I love the pain. Like, but I definitely think it's a helpful mind, is to appreciate the value in the things that don't seem to have value right now, which definitely is zooming out.
Yeah.
Is there any specific person you would say has had the biggest impact on your spiritual journey?
Hmm. Yeah, Leo Gura, actualized.org. It's
Mm,
funny because he's also one of Dan's
yeah.
mentors in a sense. Well, Dan loves that guy as well.
Did you
Uh,
find him before fighting Dan or
I
after?
did, yeah,
That's
yeah.
funny.
Funny because I noticed so much in Dan's content that reflects his content a lot. It's like
Mhm,
Dan's background when he has that black background, completely black. Actualized the arc has had the same for years, where it's
mhm.
just fully black in the background like that. And even the way he speaks, ever like so much of the his ideas come from actualized.org, which is pretty funny, but
Yeah,
just framed through
yeah, definitely.
his own stuff. It's like his idea of when he defines the creator economy and stuff, he actually got that thing from one of actualized.org's social matrix video. And he
Yeah,
actually called it out already. He said that he actually got it from there, which is it's so cool to see. But yeah, I would say actualized.org. He has a as well a life purpose course that's really good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something I've heard from about Dan is like that he'll steal ideas or concepts. I feel like, yes, in a way, but I feel like he talked about this idea from Ken Wilber, something like wholeness or something, but he applies it to the creator economy. Like, he applies these spiritual
Mhm.
concepts to the creator economy. So then it's not stealing. It's like stealing like an artist, I guess. He's
Yeah.
applying these ideas to the creator economy and through his own perspective as being a creator. So
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's kind of also what I'm trying to go with the system. It's like you can find ideas from others, just run them through your values, run them through your zone of genius, run them through your purpose, and then present them through that frame,
yeah.
giving basically a new application for that idea.
Yeah, I love that. Um, is there any specific books that you would say had a big impact on your spiritual journey or journey as a person?
Um, yeah, my two favorite are right next to me. One, the Kybalion, amazing book right here. Uh, and then the second one is the one I showed right here, the Wheel of Time. These two are wonderful. Wheel of Time is really good for kind of just being able to get into that mindset of letting go and enjoying everything as is.
Hmm.
And then the Kaibanian is really good for just understanding how you function and how reality functions. And this is one that Dan actually recommends in one of his videos, and I got it through there. Really glad I read it. And a lot of this is actually around that principle of you basically are reality in a sense, because you are the one creating this projection
Projection.
that
Yeah.
you're then understanding for the projection that you're creating to create your own reality. um so basically creating an external world to be able to experience yourself.
Yep.
um so this goes a lot into that, and a few other principles of how the universe works, which probably is one of the books that connected as like the most dots for me.
This is kind of going off of the spiritual thing, but because it just something that occurred to me is how much attentional real estate Danco has. Like, I don't think I've had a podcast and not mentioned him. I mean, I bet because I'm obsessed with him and he's in my tribe of mentors, but like in the creator economy in money Twitter, it's like almost impossible to have a long conversation and not mention Danco. So it's like the power of that
Yeah,
attention real estate that he has in people's minds.
yeah, it's
Um,
kind of crazy.
uh, this one's a touch subject, I guess, but what are your thoughts on kind of God and religion relating to the spiritual side?
Um, I have a lot of issues with religion. This is gonna be so controversial. Fuck.
We don't have to talk
Um,
about it then.
no, it's fine. But
I
anyone that
don't
is
think
religious
many
isn't
people
gonna
have gotten
enjoy
this
me.
far anyway. Sorry. I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
if
true.
anyone's gotten to this part.
Yeah. I think all religions are kind of BS in a sense. Not BS because the thing is that wars really it happens because of religion. Everything because happens because of those, and most of religion, well, all religions are basically fighting for exactly the same thing. They're just giving a different label to it. Like literally every single religion, their god or gods is reality, is this filter right here, this frame, this consciousness basically that's letting us be able to experience. But they're all defining exactly the same thing, just they're putting a different label on it. And the issue I have with this is that they're trying to basically define something that's infinite with something finite, which is a word.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's where the issue comes from, is that humanity is trying to define something that cannot be defined.
Yeah.
Um, and instead of just accepting it as is and being okay, we're never gonna be able to really know more
Understanding what
than
consciousness
yeah,
really is. Like
because
another expression.
it's the thing is that we understanding works on like it has to be to understand one concept, we have to our brain has to be able to relate it to something else. And with something like consciousness or reality or however you want to call it, which is basically the only thing that is, there is nothing to relate it to, so we cannot explain it because that it just is that.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah. I think the one good part of religion that I think is just having that higher, those values, like those, because I think so many people are lost because, like, not so much like worshiping God, like more so worshiping what those values represent and like what that represents, I think is very important for
Mm-hmm.
direction because everyone sort of has some kind of God. I got this from Jordan Peterson, who is someone
Mm-hmm.
I listened to on this subject because he just is able to break down these texts and it's really interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
like if you're not worshiping God, you're either you probably better to worship a higher value like honesty, truth, courage, like talking about purpose-based branding. But some people like if not, you're probably worshiping money,
Mm-hmm.
sex, like some kind of you have to have some kind of higher thing that you're relating your life to. And I think that
Yep.
it's like you may not need religion for this, but like having that higher that reference point, like the values that you
Yep.
reference your whole life to is so powerful. And there's kind of the couple values that are seen throughout that because people can't really I don't know how to I'm not going to try to explain it as well as Jordan Peterson said, but I'll go off of this topic because I can't explain it as well as he did, but something he said about humans trying to create the top of the hierarchy of like values and truth. And like the example he gives is when Adam and Eve like bite off the tree of knowledge, and they bite off more than they can chew by trying to create the principles of life, like the values of life. Like that's something that this consciousness has done for us. These sort of honesty, truth, courage, things like that. Like those are high values. Like for us to try
Mhm.
to not like determine, because we can determine that those are things we value, but like people determining that those don't matter and that we're going to create what matters is a little, it's like, how can you define what are the highest values for the entire world?
Yeah. No, I agree that a lot of the parts of religion are very positive. Like
Hmm.
applying a lot of the principles you learn from religious texts is going to improve your life. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel happier. You're going to feel more loved. You're going to whatever. Um, that's for sure. I think the only issue is that it's all the negative that goes behind it as well. All the
Yeah.
fighting, all the wars, all the things that
Hmm.
happen because of religion when they're all doing trying to get to exactly the same place.
Yep. Just different paths to reach those values. It's interesting because I guess in recent history, this is the only time where we're in a more secular society, really, in the Western
Hmm.
world, where, and it seems like more people are more lost than ever. Like, even though their reference point might have not been perfect, like some religion, but at least we had a reference point in some
Yep.
ways. So it's interesting. I'm not even religious, but it's just interesting. And something else I've heard is that a lot of churches, like my father was religious for a long time because his family brought him up like that. And he never really read the Bible, like actually read the Bible like you would have Jordan Peterson break it down and like understand it like that and what these brilliant minds were actually trying to say. There's some quote from Luke Belmar of like, it's so dangerous to have people interpret something for you. Like the priests wouldn't allow the common people to read and write or read
Hmm.
because then they would interpret what the Bible meant to them. So they wouldn't actually be able to interpret it for themselves. Or like he gave an example with like um, accountants or something, like you or people that will file your taxes, like you don't understand how it actually works, so you're having them interpret it for you, which is dangerous because that's how you're giving your power away. So that relates to another thing from Danco is the multi-skill stack. Like you can delegate, but Danco understands so many things that he gets an understanding of web design even though he has somebody else do it for him. So yeah, that was a whole tangent from religion to web design, but yeah. Um,
It's awesome. I completely agree.
yeah. Kind of moving to the future. What are your future plans as a creator and next steps you're taking in the next couple of months or years?
Um, Probably for the next 2 years, I'm really just going to be focused on increasing the awareness around purpose-based branding. That's my main thing. One, developing my own understanding of it and just developing that idea as much as I can. Um, Creating a system that just works over and over and over and over for helping people achieve the transformation I want to help them achieve. So that's the main thing for the next 2 years. In the next I have my goals here. In the next 15 to 20, um, the goal is to have basically, in a sense, kind of like an actual social media app. Not a social media app, but it's like imagine X Order that has its own app, very focused around purpose and actually created in a way that makes everything so easy to actually navigate and have an actual really good community around
Like a
this.
software?
Yeah, basically a community software thing with like 1 million plus people um,
That's awesome.
around purpose and actually everyone finding and moving towards purpose.
Yeah. Do you plan to write a book in the future?
Probably, probably.
Yeah.
I think I want to wait a good while for that. Uh, if I do write one, I want to write it over like a good 10 years just to make sure it's
Like
like,
your life philosophy.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
think that Dan wrote his book really well. Um, But at the same time, I think he could have taken more time to actually write it.
Yeah.
And that's just my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, but maybe there's something to writing a couple and then working on the final because you've
Definitely.
had some
Definitely.
experience.
That is very true.
Because I mean, you could like the book I'm reading right now, um, like she would hand this book out at seminars, the author, like mini pamphlets, like sections of
Mhm.
it. So she basically had like 13 to 20 sections that she would hand out, and then eventually that compiled to be the whole book. So maybe doing mini books or allowing you, because publishing is a whole thing in itself that you have to learn how to do. But like maybe I might write a book on the creator economy, and that might be a stepping stone to writing a book on life philosophy.
True. True. Yeah, that's very true. I thought about it. I have a book outline that I have. Well, not a whole outline, but an idea. Um, but it's not a priority right now.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Something interesting I heard from Dan is that you create like a book outline and you build your content off of that or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
That's a
you'll
cool idea.
create a book called The Purpose-Based Creator.
Yeah. I could actually.
That's um so you recently moved, right, to a different location of France. So would you say that you're living in your dream destination, or is there any places that you would want to travel and maybe see for
In terms of living, it's pretty nice here.
I've seen some pictures.
Yeah, I would show over there, but my camera cable wasn't long enough. But yeah, it's beautiful here, man. Like I used to be in town, and now just being kind of in the actual mountains of the south of France. Wow, it's
Yeah. I've
amazing.
shown pictures from the Telegram to my mom and she's like, man.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. But I do want to move to Switzerland at some point. That's where I was born, and I'd like to go back there for to actually live there. Um, But other than that, traveling is cool, but at the same time, it's not at my highest
Priority right
importance on
now.
my list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of people, their actual values is like adventure and stuff, and that's pretty good if that's your what you really hold to, then go for it. I'm just happy wherever I am. It comes back to my worldview is very much just as long
Appreciating
as
what
I'm
you have.
as long as I'm experiencing something, no matter what it is, it's cool. Um, like that's
Mm.
really how I see everything. So
Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah. Um, moving towards kind of the future of your brand, do you want to be more of a micro authority or would you want to create a large brand or grow a large brand? Dan Co, maybe in 20 years, it would be bigger than that, 5 years, whatever it is.
yeah. Hmm. Personally, maybe a micro, but to make the impact I want to make, I'm gonna have to
Yeah. A
scale
million
to
people on the app.
millions. Yeah, yeah. Even for the big goal of collectively helping every human on Earth find and monetize their purpose.
A
Yeah.
little bigger brand.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I relate to Hermosi a lot as well, because someone asked him something similar at some point, and he said that as well. He said that if because they were on the conversation of when you're famous, it's like you can't even go to the restaurants because people just recognize you and it gets too messy. He was saying if fame is the price I have to pay to make the impact I desire, then I'll pay any day.
I love that. I think I've heard him say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just like
So
when
yeah,
you're on like your deathbed and you think about like kind of if you had risked it to be able to have that impact, you probably would have wanted to risk it for that impact, even though it would have been hard.
yeah, and then it seems cool as well, even though it seems cool at this stage. But I'm sure when you're actually really famous and like you really can't even walk down the street, it must be kind of fucking annoying at some point. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think more large brands because I really do want to spread these ideas as far as I
Yeah.
can.
And maybe it's even like you don't need to have like for that goal of impacting everyone on Earth. It's more like maybe if you're able to have such a impactful community that almost they
Mhm.
spread your ideas so you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have to have such a large brand. Like Dan Co, he's probably impacted more people than the numbers say, because those people
Mhm.
that he's told and have been impacted then tell other people about
Definitely.
these ideas. So that's another thought. It's like investing in other people's minds that you see potential and for in aligned. Yeah. Okay. Well, as we come to the end
Okay.
of the podcast, what would be the one thing you would want the audience to take away after listening to? I think this is the longest podcast I ever had.
Yeah, that's nearly 3 hours as well.
Yeah.
The main thing I think is to tie everything together, and the main idea of what I try to get through is really that idea that basically my worldview of seeing every experience as enjoyable or worth it, no matter good or bad, merged with building something that you actually want to build. So building something you actually love. Those two together, I think, is such an amazing recipe to living a good life. It's
Mhm.
like it's only two things, but those two, if you actually take time to implement them, to understand them, to see how to actually see that from that framework, then you live a life that's crazy because you basically have control over most of everything that happens to you. Um, I would say those two things, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Building a
and
legacy for other
yeah,
people to be inspired by.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that.
exactly. Without and basically it's they kind of balance each other out. It's like the worldview of nothing truly has meaning, and you just give it your own meaning, merged with the purpose-based branding, what actually having a large purpose and wanting to make an impact. Those two kind of balance each other out. So it's
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and giving us 3 hours of your time. So that's awesome. So
nah. Thanks for taking me on, man. This was an awesome chat. I loved it.
thank you.